Hello everyone, welcome into our latest live broadcast. It's Friday the 24th of October. Wow, we're 7 days away from Halloween, and then we're into November, daylight saving time, and then Thanksgiving, and then Christmas, and then the New Year. Just blink your eyes and it'll soon be 2026. All right, but it's not yet, and we're in the moment now. So thank you so much for joining me. Of course, I'm Kerry Holzman, and today I've got a computer that needs to be rebuilt. I think we have the original build video of this in our library that is listed in the video description below today's video. If you're curious about it, this was filmed back in Studio A about 8 years ago. This system has never needed a repair or has come in for service ever in 8 years. And the reason it's in for service now is it is not Windows 11 compatible. Rather than extend Windows 10 updates for another year, this company has decided that why procrastinate, till tomorrow what you can do today. So we've got two machines that they have. There should be both of these should be identical. They were built in 2017. They're just over 8 years old. I think they were built in October of 2017, if I'm not mistaken. So just missed the wire. If they had waited another 6 months and we had built this in 2018, we would have been Windows 11 compliant, but we didn't know that since my crystal ball has never worked. And they're not upset. It's not like they didn't get a great deal and get their money's worth out of this machine. And, like I said, the machine still works. Just the internet has become far more dangerous of a place today than it was 8 years ago. And when I say far more dangerous, I mean it's about 8 million times more dangerous. The level exponentially grows and compounds on itself every single year that you connect to the world with that little cable or your Wi-Fi. And if you don't really understand the depth of how dangerous that is and how important security updates are, maybe just stick to a phone or something, because it's going to get worse. The threats that exist now are far, far worse, about 8 million times worse than they were when this computer was built. And that 8 million will probably become 30 million in another 8 years. It compounds on itself. It is a profoundly dangerous place to connect to the internet when that internet goes worldwide to enemy countries and people with nothing to lose and no punishment if they get caught. And it's not to be taken lightly, at least not if you value with the things that you have, like your identity. But at the end of the day, it's your choice. So this company, I believe, is making the right choice and making sure that they stay in business and protect their customer data. And so it's worth a couple $100, to upgrade the machine. We're going to reuse the case. We'll probably reuse the power supply and the optical drive. And we'll just change the motherboard and everything that goes on the board, the CPU, the RAM, the storage, and the cooler. We're going to need a cooler. I've got a couple boards here I think are going to work fine. They don't necessarily need, a 13th gen or a 14th gen or a Core Ultra. They're probably not going to see much in that. They won't see much with a faster NVMe drive either, but they will see more performance with more RAM with the software they use. We've already tested that. And so these machines were built with 16 gigs of RAM, and it's a little painful for them compared to the newer machines that are built with 32 gigs and 64 gigs. And they have told me they absolutely feel the difference between 32 gigs and 64. So for this customer, I won't waste their money with high-end processors or fast NVMe drives, ultra-fast ones, when they're not going to see it. But we will invest in putting as much RAM as we can on there affordably. So at least 32 and preferably 64. We'll see what we've got on hand here. DDR4 RAM especially is going up in price. So timing-wise, not the best time. But DDR5, on the other hand, although it's gone up as well, they're still producing DDR5. They're not really making DDR4 anymore. So it's just a matter of when that all finally gets out of the distribution channel, and then then it becomes supply and demand, where there's just not much supply, and as people require it, it's going to get more and more expensive because people will pay it when they don't have any other choice. So it could ultimately be cheaper to go to a newer CPU, to pay more for the CPU and pay more for the motherboard, and then turn around and pay less for the RAM. Could work out to be about the same. But the first thing we need to do is just take this apart, at least disassemble the board. And, you know, with that board is the CPU, the cooler, the RAM, and the storage. We're just going to remove all that. That should only take a minute or two. I've already taken the side panel off, and I've blown it outside with a leaf blower because it was pretty dusty in there. And that includes the power supply. A lot of people forget to do that. And you lay the computer flat and get the underside of the power supply too. So it should look pretty clean in there. If they're mildly dusty, I just have a portable air duster I use. But when they're as dusty as these, and it's been years since they've ever been cleaned, it's definitely take it outdoors and use an electric leaf blower in my world. I want to say thank you to our friend Buster, Peter Laycock, with an Amazon gift card as his super chat today. And it looks like Buster is hanging out in there. So cheers and welcome into Buster. A $10 super chat comes in from our good friend Rick Lakes. Hi, Rick. Thank you for your super chat contribution. Hope you're doing well. Anthony Scott just became a supporter. Welcome in, Anthony. As a member, you know, you have access to all our Monday videos that are not available to the public. And on Monday, we'll have a live video just for members, as we always do every Monday at 1 o'clock Phoenix time. And we hope you'll join us there, as well as check out our video library going back to 2009 for all the content we've been making over all these years. And welcome into the club, man. We're happy to have you here. Alex Cheek contributes $1. Thank you, Alex. Alex says, I just want to thank whoever gave me the membership since I can't regularly contribute. Yeah, your membership was gifted by another member, and it's all random. They're just random acts of kindness. And we're happy to have you here. So I hope you enjoy your membership. Take advantage of it. David Graham says hello. And there's also, of course, Mara hanging out in our chat room, our channel administrator. She does all our thumbnails, video descriptions, and answers your emails, and hangs out in the chat room and just interacts with everyone while we're live. If there's anybody that comes in looking to cause trouble, she gives them the boot. And I mean that both figuratively and literally. Let's see, Andy joins us. There's Buster saying it's 48 degrees Fahrenheit or 8.8 degrees Celsius in Edinburgh, Scotland today. Ooh, that sounds a little bit nippy, but on the other side of it, it's still pretty warm over here. We're still in the 80s. And I would gladly drop it another 10 or 15 degrees. It's coming for us here in Phoenix. And it's better than the hundreds. I think we're done for the hundreds now for the rest of the year. I hope. Dustin Fuller says hello, as well as Thomas MacT. Scott and Tony Aindow saying hello. Ben Laird says hello. 3D Everything. Wires 7. Oh, my eyes. They're not very good today, so forgive me if I'm misreading some of the letters that are 10 feet away. Brian's Vat says hello. Welcome in. There's Noodles joining us. And I also see Doman 2000, John Williams, Richard DeFries. Oh, we got a full house today. Look at this. This is fantastic. Dazzle555 says hello. There's Luke Greenia, Elijah Dickens, and Ben Laird and Gary Bickle joining us, saying hello in our live chat. So if you're watching this video live and you're not in our chat room, you need to pop in and say hello. I mean, well, I can give you the education, all the fun, and the real conversation is happening in our live chat. And all you have to do is be nice. If you're not nice, then don't go in our chat room. But if you are nice, come on in. We'd love to have you. I want to give a shout out to our friends over at URCDKeys, or specifically VIP-URCDKEys, because they're the ones where I get my Windows and Office license keys. And we've asked them to provide our audience, that's you, with a discount. So if you look in our video notes, you will see there are links to Microsoft Office, various versions, and Microsoft Windows 10 and 11, Home and Pro, OEM and Retail. I believe it's all in there. And if you use the coupon code CARRY at checkout, you'll get 25% off. This is not a commission-based link. We do what we can to provide for our viewers, and we try to find things that are universally have appeal. So when we have certain items that are very niche or specific, we don't really push so hard for that discount. We try to at least offer some kind of a discount for anything that we're showing, but we do know that most of what we show is only going to appeal to a percentage of the audience. But everybody in our audience should be using Windows and maybe using Office, so it has a universal appeal, and that's why we focus on that, to make sure that you guys are getting it from a legitimate source online. And it has 6 months of support. You're not going to be abandoned after the sale like a lot of key sellers. Some people don't know any different, right? They buy from a key seller and they get lucky and it works and everything's cool. But if you're not so lucky and you need help, that's usually where you discover the true cost of what you bought. So at least with VIP-URCD keys, you have that reassurance that in that first 6 months, if there's any problems, they're going to take care of you. All right, so we can't thank them enough for that. And again, all the links for URCD keys are in our video notes. They also sell other software on the site. I'm not here to promote the video games and stuff. That's on you if you want to do that. It's just that when I'm talking about certain things with my endorsement, I want to control my number of requests or emails that could potentially come in, and I need to be familiar with what you're buying. So if you're buying something else off of VIP-URCD keys, it's all legit, don't get me wrong. I might have to have you just deal with them if there are any concerns. But if it's Windows or Office, I can, if I need to be stepping in, I absolutely, no problem. It's so unusual, it's so rare. And believe me, if it became common where viewers had to reach out to me with problems, I wouldn't be endorsing them anymore. So they have motivation to keep you happy, and I've got motivation to keep them happy so that they can continue to offer you that discount. So hopefully it all wins all the way around. And just keep that in the back of your mind if you or anybody you know needs a license key and you don't want to pay too much and you also don't want to be scammed. With that, there was something else I was going to mention. Oh, if you want to reach us, of course, you can reach us at our email address right there. And even during the show, if you email us, Mara is monitoring the inbox, and Mara can answer most of your questions anyway. So we always love to hear from you, and that is the email address and how you can reach us. I can always tell if somebody's watching my videos because they won't use that email address. And I go, that's interesting. Carrie, love your videos, watch them all the time. Then why did you not email the where I keep telling you to email me? All right, with that, let me start opening this up. Now, like I said, I've already opened the side panel and blew it out. And the other thing I did is I took the M.2 drive out and I wiped it because I don't want any customer data on display here. So those are the two things I've done off camera, and I mentioned that just for full disclosure, but that's it. I haven't even so much as turned it on. I don't need to because the parts are coming out anyway, and I don't want to get my hands all dirty, so that's why I dusted it out. And when I turn it on to see what CPU and RAM and everything it's got, I don't want it to boot into Windows and expose my customer's data. So those are the reasons I did that off camera, and I'm telling you, I'm not keeping that a secret. And that's all I've done. So let's see what awaits us inside. All right, there's our build. I do believe, according to the video, that this was a B250. Ryzen 7 7700 is what I believe is in there, but I haven't checked it. A pretty low wattage power supply, but it's EVGA, what, 430 watt? It's been in there since day one, never a lick of problems. I don't see any reason to change it. But, you know, I might change my mind in the process. We'll see. I have spare power supplies. They're generally no less than 500 watts these days. But, you know, we're not putting discrete graphics in it regardless, so that power supply is plenty as far as power delivery goes. As long as the fans work and it's not making any noise, it's never had a problem. The downside is that if there is going to be a part that fails, the first thing that it's likely going to be is the oldest part we didn't replace. And a power supply can be kind of a pain in the butt to change. So depending on my attitude, I might feel like I want the reassurance of a new power supply in there. However, I also know enough in this industry that just because you put in a new power supply doesn't mean it's better than the one you're replacing or that it will last longer. Number of times customers just assume it's new, so why did it break? Nothing is immune from breaking. It's just statistically you're more likely going to experience a failure the older the component is, but it's not a universal truth that has no exceptions. It's very well possible that this power supply, if I leave it alone, will last another 30, 40, 50 years, long beyond its useful life. It's also possible if I leave it in, that it fails the day after it's delivered. And if that's the case, again, it's more additional labor. Under warranty, it just costs me money. If I swap it out now with a brand new unit, that new unit hasn't really been as tested as this one. Maybe it only lasts a few days. Maybe it only lasts a few weeks. Maybe it only lasts a few months. So I'm right back to square one, either way I choose. But statistically, between a brand new power supply and an older used power supply, the older one will fail first, but not always. Okay. So looking in here, we've got an optical drive the customer still uses. We have that front case fan, which I don't believe I ever turned on because there's no reason to. We keep it as a spare, but all these are original parts. There's nothing in here that's been replaced or repaired since it was sold. And this is often why customers keep coming back. Sometimes the customers don't come back for 10 years, and I don't remember them. Hey, remember me? No, you built a computer for me. Oh, did I? When was that? Oh, about 2015. Okay, great. How can I help you? Well, I need to replace my computer. Oh, something wrong with it? No, it's not Windows 11 compatible. It still works. By the way, I have the one you built for me before that back in 2005. It's still sitting on my desk. I don't know what to do with it. That's a great customer. Even though he's only bought 3 computers in essentially 30 years, it's a happy customer. It's obviously going to come up as a referral. I will come up as a referral anytime that they're discussing computers with their friends or family. And that's how I build my business, is just take care of one customer at a time. And it's not about how much money can I make for them in the future. It's about building a relationship, not selling a product. So if they know they can trust me and they know that I charge a fair price and I build quality stuff, and I'm always there to answer the phone if they have any problems. The guy who built it answers the phone. A lot of people really appreciate that in the world today, where that's very rare to find all of those things together. You can usually find 2 of the 3, but you know, this computer was damaged in shipping. Right there, you can see it's got a big old dent right there. I think this computer came in a while back for a virus, if I'm not mistaken, because I remember that dent now that I'm seeing it. And the customer wanted to be sure. They had clicked on something they shouldn't have clicked on. And I believe I removed the virus remotely, but I said, if you really, really want to be sure, I just need to wipe and reinstall the operating system. So when they delivered it to me, they damaged it. I said, okay, well, does that bother you? They said no. I said, well, don't bother me either. So I ended up wiping and reinstalling the operating system. No fault of the computer. The end user made a mistake, and now I just wanted to wipe it, reinstall, start over again. And then now we're at a point where it's come in again for no reason because of the computer. Everything's solid, works fine. It's just not Windows 11 compatible, nor will it ever be. And yes, they could buy another 12 months. And when I say buy, I mean they could buy themselves time. It's free to get those extended updates, but all they're doing is procrastinating and putting off what they have to do. Why put off till tomorrow what you can do today? So the timing was right for them. They're in a slow time of year. I'm in a slow time of year. Bring it on. So they brought us 3 machines. One we repaired that had the bad NVMe drive, and that's Windows 11 compatible. We ended up reinstalling that, and that's ready to go back out the door. And we have 2 others that are basically the last 2 of this generation. And yeah, we have a total of 3, and when they're done, they'll all go back. And if things go well, we'll see them again in 2033, right? Or maybe later, 2033 at the earliest. So I'm going to start by removing all the cables off the motherboard. So I'm going to start with the power cable and the front port USBs and our umbilical cables, power switch, reset switch. And then finally the front port audio cable. And then I think the last thing I've got to remove here is the CPU power and the rear case fan. That's it. With that done, I can get my screwdriver, take the screws out of the motherboard, and I will definitely need my glasses for this. And I do have to work with the machine flat down because I don't want parts falling out. It does mean that you get a very limited view. However, you might be able to see through these holes here at what I'm doing. But we only have a few screws holding this in place because, you know me, I don't like to leave mounting holes empty. But unfortunately, the Corsair 200R did not have all of the mounting holes available in the case that this board has. So this board has, well, it looks like one missing screw because there's no way to put a screw there. And then it's got a post next to that that holds the board in place. So there's no screw there. And then there's no screw in the top right corner. So as I'm pulling off the cables, I see the board flexing up and down, but there's also no mounting hole in the top right corner. Even if there was a mounting hole, I wouldn't have been able to use it. So overall, I'm not real happy with the way that Gigabyte had designed this board, but that's more of a technician problem. It's not a problem for the customer. They don't care. It never fell out or anything like that. I just would have liked to seen it be more secure. I think there's a total of 5 screws. On a full-size ATX board, we usually use 8 or 9 screws. This is a micro ATX board, so we would normally use 6. So essentially what I'm saying is we're 1 short here, because we have 5. And then there's a potential for 2 others, when there should be, in my opinion, a 3rd one on top. That would give us a total of 8. That would have secured the board better. But Gigabyte didn't design it that way, and Corsair did not design their case for that middle mounting point, which I'll show you here in a minute. I think I've got everything removed. It should just pop up and come right out. Super easy. When I take my time to build computers, the reason I do everything the way I do it is so any sort of work in the future can be really fast. By having all the cables managed, it's going to be real easy to get back in there. I don't have to get cables out of my way. They're all bunched together with zip ties, so all the front board umbilicals are together. The power supply cables are already wire tied in the back, and hopefully they'll reach to where I need them to go. But it just makes everything so much faster because I'm not fussing around with a spaghetti of cables. Now, the particular mounting hole that I'm talking about here, if you look on the case, you'll see the standoffs in there. And in this middle row of standoffs, right over here, sort of between the hard drive and the optical drive bay there, there's a mounting hole on this board. It's hard for me to do this unless I have a 3rd arm. But I'll just show you the mounting hole on the board does not have a mounting point on the case because only really Gigabyte did this. Nobody else did this. And when I talked to Gigabyte about it, they basically told me to get lost. So this piece right here, this one, right where my finger is, that is not a standard mounting location. So Corsair does not provide it. However, other case manufacturers do, but Corsair does not. So that one was left empty. And where I really would have liked to have seen one was up here, because the closest one is here. So when I'm pulling up on this power cable, this whole corner of the board is flexing. And again, the Corsair case would not have had a matching point anyway. So basically your mounting points for screws on this board are a little wonky. You've got one here, which is at a different height than the next one over, which is further, it's angled down. Usually they're straight across. But that's common on micro ATX boards. And oftentimes they'll be right in a row, 1, 2, 3. And then you should have 1, 2, 3, which we don't. Instead, we just have this awkward one here that I was pointing out. And then over by our I/O shields, you usually have 1, 2, 3. And instead, we've got 1, 2, and then it goes in this way. which again is pretty standard, but this one here is the stinker. And if I'd have bought at the same time, if I would have bought a different manufacturer's board, I likely would not have had this issue. But is it an issue? I mean, really, it's in there the way it's meant to go in as far as good enough, even though it's not the way Gigabyte wanted it. It is the way Corsair wanted it. Who's right, who's wrong? And the customer never had any problem, and I'm the one who has to work on it. So, you know, since the board still works, it may have a life as something else. So we'll definitely save the I/O shield. I see so many people that don't put these in, and I just think, you know, if you're not going to do it right, why bother? When people just don't when they don't have enough pride or integrity in what they're doing, why bother doing it? Just say, you know, it's not my thing. Let somebody else do it for you. You want to live in a world that everything's sort of working and sort of patched together? That's your choice, but I don't want to live in that world. So, you know, to each their own on that. Now, with regards to, I should have turned this on while I had an opportunity, but I'll tell you what, let's do that now. Let me just go ahead and take this down. Let's set that here. And I'm going to find a place for this just for a minute. Because I just want to evaluate all the parts. I think the video I found that I added to the video notes is this build video. But I think there's 3 of them in that. I don't know which of the 3. Not that it matters. I think they're all the same. But nonetheless, maybe I picked the wrong video too. I built so many computers, and so many are similar in the specific period of time. I might have picked the wrong one, but I just want to verify. So what I'll do is we'll grab a power switch here, and we'll plug this in. We don't need the LED, just the switch itself. Right there. And then I need an HDMI cable, which I have right here. Got a keyboard, mouse, HDMI. I don't need internet because there's no OS on this drive. I blanked it out. I guess I just need a power supply and a power cable. So let me run over here right quick and just grab something. I've got them over here. It'll be nice when I get the studio set up where this will be within arm's reach, but for right now, until we get around to it, I'll just grab this little small form factor power supply because it'll use less room on the desk. Some people think a bigger power supply physically means that it's got more power, but that's not always the case. This little guy will power this fine, with plenty left over too. So let's go ahead and plug this bad boy in here. Like that. And then CPU power, of course. We aren't going to get too far without that. That's for a video card we don't have. Come on. There he is. There he is. CPU power right there. No additional fans are required. People are obsessed with heat on the internet. It's a toxic disease that people get obsessed with nonsense online. I strongly encourage you to resist the urge to become infected. And if you've already been infected, I'm not quite sure what the cure is other than get over it. But unless you're having a heat problem, you don't have a heat problem. Rocket science, right? But yeah, on the internet, everybody's got a heat problem. And on WebMD, everybody that goes there is sick. All right, let's look at... oh, here it is. Let's look at the power cable. It's tangled up down here, guys. All right, let's get that plugged in. And we do have an on-off switch on this power supply. I'll flip that over to on. Make sure that's plugged in. Make sure the keyboard and mouse are turned on. And we're going to jump over to this input that's going into the streamer, which looks like that. Let's see if I can put myself on the screen at the same time. It's all rocket science, ladies and gentlemen. And let's see what happens. Turn it on. Fan is spinning. I got some LEDs lighting up down here under the board. We've been using a stock Intel fan the whole time. Customers never complained of heat, never complained of noise, and it's ridiculous that companies have you so convinced that you need to buy a third-party cooler and that you get rid of the stock cooler as though it were worthless because you believe the nonsense online from intolerant enthusiasts who have a lot more money and a lot more time than most of us. You know, good for them, but it definitely doesn't fit into a category that my customers fit into anyway. Let's press delete, see if we can get in that BIOS. Control-Alt-Delete rather, and I'll start pressing delete. And let me get rid of camera 1, and we can take a look in here. There may be even a new BIOS update we could look for just for the fun of it. And we're running the B250, so I did pick the right video, I do believe. But the BIOS date is from 2018, so even the BIOS is 7 years old. And if we go back over to this side over here, we can see, whoops. I know you guys can see it. I can't see it, so give me just a minute for me to. There, now I can see. There's our CPU frequency and temperature, which is obviously very cool. No need for that third-party cooler. So the Intel stock cooler does just fine. It's quiet. I don't even hear it. There's also the memory frequency. We have 32 gigs of RAM. And if we go back over to, let's see, it's usually under MIT, I think. Usually tells us the name of the CPU. I don't see it. Maybe I have to go into like simple mode. Let's go down here. Oh, we're already in easy mode? Oh no, there's easy mode. That's what I wanted. All right, so BIOS version is F10. It's an Intel Core i7-7700. It's not a K. Customer never had any complaints about speed on this, by the way. And let's see if we look for a Gigabyte B250M D3H. Let's take a look. I'll open up a browser, and here on the streamer, I'll type Gigabyte B250H. What else was it called? Where did my video go? I'm confused. What did I do? Why do I not have any signal? Did I pull the cable? Ooh, that HDMI cable's loose. I think they've been moving this around the office a while. Ah, there it is. Okay, so what I say was, oh, it's a D3H. Okay, so let me go back over to my browser. D3H BIOS. And let's see what Gigabyte has here. Let me share the screen with you. Over here. So B250 D3H. And then I'm going to click on, scroll down, go to BIOS. And the latest BIOS for this is F10. Wow, this has not been updated at all. Crazy. For 7 years, they have not updated the BIOS. All right then, there you go. So I guess that's one less thing I got to worry about. But you can see the system works perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with it. And it can be sold and recycled and reused for, well, again, another year of Windows 10 if need be. Or for a project box for a home user, something like that. And we've got a Samsung 960 EVO on there, which, you know, it's a 500 gig drive. It's no slouch, but it's also, you know, we could reuse it in the next build. I'm not sure I will because NVMe drives are so inexpensive. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this off. We'll go back to full screen on camera 1 here. And I think that's really all we need to know. Usually I'll get a little index card and I'll write what the CPU is that's hiding under here, how much RAM we've got, what the make and model and size of the NVMe drive are. and the make and model of the board with the BIOS version. That's it. And then I keep the index card with the computer and the I/O shield to be used for something else in the future. So with that, we're done with this power supply for now. Let me go ahead and, I'll tell you what, let's leave that there for a minute. Let's just go ahead and unplug it from the board. Take care of that. Take care of this. And we'll take care of this. So now the question is, all right, what are we going to use for a replacement? Now, as I mentioned, this customer doesn't necessarily need the highest end, most expensive thing for the work they do, but they do notice a difference when there's more RAM. So we'll keep that under consideration. So I'm looking around the studio and I'm looking for a board that's not being used. We have higher end boards that are in cases that I'm more than happy to remove and place into their other case. But their difference between, let's say, an 11600K and a 13500 is pretty minimal. So what I'm going to do, first of all, I do believe I have an 11600K, and I have what appears to be a dead bug on my desk. So let me just take care of that right quick. We'll just throw him away. He's not going anywhere. And let me grab the board I'm thinking of using. Let me check it, make sure it's okay. I don't want to undersell the customer, but at the same time, I don't want to oversell them either. And if I can save them some money by getting rid of some parts I already have, they can get the system back faster for less money and likely with a minimal of performance difference between one generation and another one. And that's a judgment call I'm making. And, you know, look, I could be wrong. It's happened. Let's see what we've got here. Now, if you've been watching the channel for a while, there was a time when I built a machine in a Johnsbow case that required micro ATX. This case, the 200R, will take either full ATX or micro ATX. This is just what I happen to have. And we ended up switching that out initially for an 8000 series AMD to see how that would perform. And that system is still here. It's all built and done. But initially I was going to build it with these parts, and I said, oh, you know what? We've done these parts before. The 8000 series AMD just came out. Let's switch it over. And then something else happened. The parts on the Johnsbow ended up getting swapped out 3 times. And this was the original build idea. And I said, well, I'll just set this aside for now, and I'll get to it. Project will come up sooner or later. And I do believe this is an 11600. Well, here it tells me. This is a 13600K, my bad. And we've got DDR4 RAM on here, which was RAM I had laying around. So I think I had already had the CPU. I think I already had the RAM. And I just needed a board. And I was trying to do the build as cheaply as I could because, as I mentioned, it's still here. Nobody's ever bought it. And if need be, if I need those parts, I'll simply, you know, steal the parts out of the case if that's what I have to do. I don't know if we have an M.2 drive in here. I don't see one. So we're going to have to resolve the M.2 situation. Let's see what's hiding under the heatsink. And I obviously need to put a cooler on this, but I got lots of coolers here, brand new in a box. The Intel K processors do not have coolers. And since this is an 11600K, it would not have come with a stock cooler. So you can see the tape's been removed, and we did have something in here. And this is likely going to be Gen 4, not Gen 5. I could be wrong, but I'm going to guess it's Gen 4. And even if it were Gen 5, I wouldn't use it because the price to performance difference ultimately, again, on this customer situation, won't make any difference. They're loading everything over the network. They're limited to 1 gig speed. So that sort of thing is just a psychological nonsense to part you from your money, separate you from your money. And if you buy into that, you know, have at it. But part of the reason people hire me is I can sort through the nonsense to meet what their budgets and expectations are for computing performance and how it's being used. And it's not the same for everybody. I want you to know that. So let's see. I need a cooler. Let me jump over here and grab a Mugen 5. I think a Mugen 5 will be perfect. Yeah. Let's see, we have a couple Mugen 5s. We'll go with a black Mugen 5. Yeah. Customer's never going to see the inside, so I was debating if I should just go with the chrome one. But, you know, let's take a little pride in our work. These all basically, from my inventory, are worth about the same, so looks like we got a little shipping damage on the box here. And I suppose we just need to mount the cooler first, and I also need to find an NVMe drive for this. Now, for all intents and purposes, I could take the NVMe drive they had. There's nothing wrong with it. But I'd feel better with a Gen 4 on there myself, just to make it worth their while, even though that's mostly a psychological difference, at least with the way this customer uses their computers. There's our cooling fan. Our cooler. It's been a while since we've had a computer to build. Everybody's just kind of, I don't know what happened, but the industry is kind of slowed way down, whether that's people switching over to their phones or handheld gaming, or lost interest, or economically just aren't doing well enough to buy. I don't know if this is if we're going back to enthusiast only type PC building, which is how it all started, or we're in a temporary lull. But regardless of that, so long as I have business clients, they always need computers. And then we have one other box in here. That's our box of accessories, which is right here. And this will have all the mounting brackets and everything we need. Yeah. And Mara says we have emails. Wonderful timing, because I am just ready for that. Let me put this over there. And I still need to walk over to my NVMe drive stack and see what I've got we can put in there. Let's check that email though. Let's see what we got. Oh, Paul Vircher sends an Amazon gift card. Thank you, Paul, for your Amazon gift card. And as I mentioned earlier, our friend Buster, and yesterday, Charlie Purdy. Thanks you guys so much for continuing to support us. Along with all of our members, I had an interesting call the other day from a client. Well, let me say from a viewer. Let's say a viewer. And the viewer said, I'm having some networking problems. I also work in IT like you do, and I can't figure this one out. And I said, well, you know, you've intrigued me. I'd like to see it with my own eyes. So he gave me remote access to a couple of computers that won't see each other. And what I can't see is what they're plugged into. So after a while, I said, what is the router these are plugged into? Well, it's a sonic firewall. I go, okay, is there a switch? Yes. Is it a managed switch with, is it a smart switch? Yes. Yeah, they need that because they've got a phone system that's power over Ethernet, yada, yada, yada. Okay. So what I think has happened is I think there's a VLAN set up, or there's a firewall rule set up, either in the sonic wall or in the smart switch, the managed switch, but he doesn't have access to those. Somebody else set that up. And I don't think there's anything either one of us can do about it. Like, there's no way, like he's thinking, should I reinstall Windows? I'm like, I don't think this is a Windows problem. I think you've got a smart switch that's been set up with a virtual LAN setting, or a firewall that is only allowing certain IP addresses to do certain things. And you might ask yourself, well, how did you figure that out, Carrie? The process of deduction. I pretty much tried resetting and double checking every single thing and found nothing out of the ordinary. He did everything the same way I would have done it. So my question is, what can't I see? And that is, what's it plugged into? We should not assume he's just plugged into a cable provider modem or something, because otherwise we'll be wondering forever. So you got to think outside the box and ask these questions. What is it plugged into? You need to tell me. I need a make and a model number. And also, is there a modem? Is that separate? Do we have a firewall like a Sonic Wall router or a Firebox? What do we have there? And ultimately, I'd asked for a picture of it, but he was letting me in remotely. Well, he was remotely connected because the office that we asked me to look at is closed. Okay. So I'm looking forward to hearing from him today to find out if the person that controls and has access and set up those smart switch and the managed switch and the Sonic Wall can verify if there is a VLAN set up. And the reason I mention it is because you can set up a VLAN on the same IP range and just say, you know, the IP address of 0 to 100 goes over here, and from 100 to 150 will be the PCs, and from 151 to 200 will be the phones, and from 200 to 250 will be the cameras, and you segment it out for security reasons. And sometimes that's controlled by the port you plug the computer into, and I think they moved all the equipment to a new office and they're setting it all back up, and well, it was working before, it's not working now. So at that point, we just stop. And what I found is two computers will see each other, and they're on a different, they're in the low 100s, let's say, or no, they're above 150 as far as their IP address. Like one's 148, one's 170. They see each other fine. The two that won't see each other or anybody else, they're down around 106, 108. That's a huge gap. There's only 4 computers. They shouldn't be separated by 60 numbers on the IP address. They should be pretty damn near sequential. So something is segmenting these off. And I tried hard coding the IP address to put it up above 150, and that did not help. So that suggests there's something on the firewall side that's just not going to let you bypass it that easily. So I'm looking forward to talking with him after the show today and find out if they were able to resolve it that way and if I predicted it correctly. If not, I guess I'm going to go back to the drawing board. But I love problems like this. I love it so much. It's like, oh, finally, something different and not simple, you know. I honestly thought when he reached out to me, this is going to be a 5-minute phone call. No, he knows what he's doing. So I'll update you and I'll let you know what we find out. Once I get the information, for all I know, and what I'm expecting is, yep, I was right. Firewall had to be reconfigured, or the managed switch had to be reconfigured. That's what I'm expecting to hear. It wouldn't be the first time I don't get what I expect, but we'll see. We'll see. Let me jump over to the chat room real quick here and see if anybody's got any questions for me. There's Mark Leibowitz joining us saying hello, welcome in. Mark is also a computer repair technician with his own shop out in the Chicago area. Wayne Ellison joins us and says hello. WTRE7 says hello. Boy, some of these names. There's Mark Gaines and Paul Vercher joining us here in the chat room. Welcome in. John Lewis from Brazil joins us here in the chat room. Mike Carden joins us, along with Doman 2000. Luke Greenia, of course, our friend Luke Greenia. And Ben Laird from Scotland says hello. And yeah, if you have any questions for me, this will be the time to ask, where we take these little pauses between the chapters of work I'm doing here. I think it'll probably be easier to put the NVMe drive in right now before the heatsink goes on and potentially covers up a part of it. So let me, while I'm waiting for you guys to say or ask questions, I'm going to walk off camera for a second and just let me grab my glasses and see what I have. I prefer to use a 500 gig NVMe drive for this client because I want to discourage them saving any data on their desktops. I want it all on the server so it gets backed up. And I don't know if I have anything fast that's also small in capacity. Usually when I'm stocking up on NVMe drives, what I'm considering is speed and capacity. I'm not usually looking for small drives. But let me just check through my inventory here. I think everything is huge. Yeah, 4 terabytes, 4 terabytes. That's the opposite. What is this? It's a Samsung 980. Oh, 500 gigs. Perfect. You know, sometimes these things go on sale. I buy a bunch of them, and then I forget what I have. So I have to go through and look through my inventory. And yeah, brand new, never been used. It's only Gen 3. I would have preferred Gen 4, but I also don't want to put a larger drive in there for the reasons I mentioned. And they're not going to see the difference anyway. So, and it saves them some money too. And we're sticking with a name brand that I trust. There's probably not a lot of difference between the old 960 and this 980 in performance, but it is brand new, fresh, never used, which again doesn't mean automatically that it'll last longer, but statistically it should. So brand new. It's been sitting on the shelf for probably 2 years. Finally it got used. All right, so what we're going to do is just pop this bad boy in right here. And there's nothing to hold this down. This really bums me out when they do this. So you got to use the screws on the heatsink, which thankfully they're recessed, so at least we can get the heatsink lined up a lot easier. But what that means is when that thermal tape gets stuck onto the top of the NVMe drive and we go to take this heatsink off in the future, we're going to pull the NVMe drive right on out. And look, as long as you're careful, it's okay, but if you're not prepared for that, you could damage it. So that's why the NVMe drive should be secured on its own. And that was another, as far as I'm concerned, design flaw from Gigabyte on this board. You don't see that much today. Board manufacturers really don't do that anymore. With a few exceptions that are still out there, they are exceptions for a reason. And again, it's not a make or a break. It's just a bad design choice, in my opinion. If I was a manager, I wouldn't have approved this engineering design. It's not like it's that much more effort to give the drive its own means of security to lock it in. Am I just not in the... So you see that side was recessed, but the other side isn't. And with this drive being more or less attached via the thermal tape, me sliding this around could take it right out of the socket. I would never know. So overall, just not a very good design. I expect better. From a major manufacturer like Gigabyte anyway. And you don't see many Gigabyte boards on this channel anymore. You don't see many builds on this channel anymore, but when you do see them, primarily, wait a minute, this isn't Gigabyte, this is ASRock. I was gonna say you primarily see ASRock, but it's the previous board that was Gigabyte I had problems with. And this ASRock, I also have problems with. See, I'm a difficult guy to please. I was disappointed because even ASRock doesn't really do this anymore. But, you know, you buy a cheap enough board, it usually is regardless of who makes it, I believe, maybe Asus and MSI, maybe they all do this on the cheap boards. But that's so simple to just give it its own means to secure it. I just don't know if it's not putting more effort into it to save a nickel than just spend the nickel and have it so it can be secured. And these days, modern boards, especially the nice ones, you don't even use screws. It just all locks in with little clips or you know, there's like a little dial you twist that locks it in. I much prefer that. But I also think this board was very inexpensive. We were building this on a budget. So, you know, one goes hand in hand with the other, I suppose. But wouldn't it be nice, though, is all I'm saying. Wouldn't it be nice if I could have all the expensive features on a cheaper board? What's so unreasonable about that? Bounce 36 bounce. Carrie, did Microsoft say TPM isn't required for Windows 11? I don't believe so, but let's take a look. Did Microsoft, I think they said the opposite. Say TPM 2.0 not required for Windows 11? No. According to Google, Microsoft has not said that TPM 2.0 is not required. In fact, Microsoft has consistently stated that TPM 2.0 is mandatory. It's a security requirement, and it is non-negotiable. However, Microsoft has officially acknowledged it is possible to install Windows 11 on unsupported hardware, including systems without TPM 2.0, through workarounds. But the official stance from Microsoft maintains that TPM 2.0 is a crucial security component if you're going to put your computer on the internet around the rest of the world. If you wish to walk out onto a battlefield completely nude with no protection, you can bypass that requirement, and you'd have to be a fully armed idiot to deny to have the delusion that you're somehow immune from the world of attackers from countries all over this planet. So if you want to do it, they can't stop you. But you'd have to really have a complete fundamental misunderstanding and miscomprehension of just a lack of awareness of how dangerous the internet is to be that foolish or obtuse. But you can. They're your consequences. Microsoft is advising you and trying to enforce that you don't do something so foolish. But if you insist on it, they cannot stop you. Where did you hear that Microsoft wasn't requiring TPM 2.0? Is this just more gossip, online gossip? Because if you have any official news source, I would very much be interested in seeing it. Because I could be wrong. The information I'm reading to you could be outdated. It never, the reason I react the way I do about this whole thing is like, people say, I don't know why I need to walk in a crosswalk. If I want to cross the street, I'll just cross wherever the hell I want to. And they get hit by cars. And you think, oh, that poor pedestrian got hit by a car. Yeah, the pedestrian that was crossing at night wearing all black with nothing reflective in the middle of the street, completely invisible to cars on the road, thinking, oh, the cars will see me, they'll stop. They have to stop. No, they don't. They'll just run you over. You're not going to win. You can't win against a car. But there's some kind of mental delusion that's occurring in our society where people think they're wearing armor, and they're not. It's the emperor's clothes. It's like, what were you thinking? And we're not talking about children. We're talking about grown adults making exceptionally poor decisions. And the news will say, oh, this poor person lost their life because they got hit by a car. What about the poor car driver that now has PTSD that scars them for the rest of their life? They may never want to get behind the wheel again when they did nothing wrong. Now, if they drove the car up onto the sidewalk because, hey, there's not going to be any reason not to, and they just start running people over, whose fault is that? That's a bad decision on behalf of the driver. But nothing stops a driver from pulling up onto the sidewalk and driving on it other than common sense. And the same can be said that when a pedestrian gets off of the pavement and starts walking the sidewalk and starts walking across the street in the middle of the night, or even in the daytime for that matter, and just assumes cars are going to see them. And a lot of drivers are looking at their phones. Bam! What was that? I don't know. And they just keep driving. They don't even stop. And then this person is either instantly done or left on the road suffering, or worse, they get hit by another car going the other way. And then they're pretty much done. And all of this because they didn't want to walk the extra 50 feet to the crosswalk. So bypassing those Windows security requirements and then putting yourself onto the battlefield called the internet without that armor, It's no different. It's just really, really bad decision making, and the consequences will be yours. They won't be mine. If you decide to cross the street in the middle of the road and you get hit by a car and, you know, fatally or mortally wounded, that makes no difference in my life. Like, I still have to go to work, I still have to pay my bills, and that's just Darwin. The consequences aren't necessarily that you lose your life when you go out onto the internet foolishly unprotected. It's just that your life is stolen from you. And when that happens, it'll cost you thousands of dollars and approximately 2 years of your time to try and get it back. So choose wisely, and you're not immune from all the rest of the things the rest of us are potentially affected by. So if you think that the rules don't apply to you, if you think that you don't need to follow Microsoft steps because you're smarter than them, if you feel like, you know, you want to talk to your sergeant and say, sir, I don't want to walk onto the battlefield with armor, it weighs me down. I don't want to be a moron like all the other soldiers. I want to go out there butt naked because I think I could be a better soldier. And then they'll send your family, you know, the letter, and you'll get the they'll get the folded flag. So regardless, these are your decisions alone. They're also your consequences alone. It's a pretty serious issue. When you get your identity stolen or your data gets all encrypted and you cry and whine, how did this happen? Because you made bad decisions. It's the only way it happens. Period. End of story. Mark Leibowitz said people have had that same delusion about trains for decades. Well, some people step in front of a train on purpose. You know, they know exactly what they're doing. Others, yeah, they make some really bad decisions. There are people that want to get to the other side of a train that's parked temporarily, and it could move at any minute. And so what they do is, rather than walk around the train, they go under the train. If that train starts moving, yeah, they're done. They risk their lives every time they do it. And they're so willing to give up their life just to save a few seconds. I just don't think they were raised well by their parents, is what I think. But it's their life. David Graham said the Intel 7th Gen does have TPM 2.0 in it, but the reason it's not Windows 11 compatible is it's missing a piece of programming that Windows 11 needs. Yeah, Windows 11 needs a lot more than just TPM on your CPU. And you're way oversimplifying a base of understanding that you have just scratched the surface on. It's a lot more complicated than just TPM. And if you're interested, the information's online. But don't think that you've got the information, because you don't. You've got one piece. It's like saying, I know how to make a cake because I have flour, and I have sugar, and I have water, and I have some eggs. Okay, there's more to it than that, but good luck. I don't want to eat your cake. It sounds like it's going to be disgusting because you have some basic ingredients, but you don't have any of the nuance or full understanding of why these, you know, is there baking soda or baking powder, and why do we use one versus the other, and what flavor are we going for, and do we add other spices or other ingredients if we're making sourdough, or we're making French bread, or we're making whatever we're making. The difference is the nuance. And so if you just throw a blanket over it in oversimplifying, that's just causing harm to yourself. But yes, David Graham is correct. The Intel 7th Gen. And again, if we Google this, if we say, it's really easy. It's not like you have to live in wonderment that anybody's withholding information. If we say why, just go to Google. Why is i7 7700 not Windows 11 compatible? It'll give you the explanation. There's no support for virtualization-based security, VBS. There is no mode-based execution control. And that's more than that, by the way. There's more. I'm still looking for. Microsoft has specific requirements for desktop computer host drivers, and the i7 7700's architecture may not be fully compatible with this new driver packaging method. And there's AVX instruction sets that are required. And this just goes on and on and on. And at no point did I even mention TPM. although that's also a requirement. It's down at the basics. It's like saying, in order to eat, you need to have a plate. It's like, okay, but everybody needs a plate to eat. That's not very specific or useful. So maybe that's not a good example. Obviously, you can hold food with your hands, but you understand what I'm saying. Maybe if you're going to eat soup, you're going to need some sort of bowl or cup vessel to put the soup in. I don't think you're going to hold it in your hand. Maybe you will. It is the internet after all. So this idea that it's e-waste, that's not Microsoft's fault that the internet is filled with bad people trying to attack you. And if you're not going to defend yourself because you're stubborn and you don't want to upgrade to Windows 11, or you want to bypass the security requirements to force Windows 11 on behalf of all the hackers, thank you for making their job easy. Because you've just basically left your wallet out on the sidewalk, allowing anybody to pick it up and take it. You're doing nothing to protect it. So, and of course, there's also some BIOS issues with regards to, legacy BIOSes versus, UEFI, secure boot, of course, TPM. It just goes on and on and on. It's a lot more complex, and you're not doing yourself any favors by thinking you understand it and just focusing on one of, over a dozen different complexities that have to be requirements that have to be met, technical requirements. So just so you know, just so you're aware, you still need all the others. Why you focus on this one thing, I don't know. There's more to it than that. It's what I refer to as just oversimplifying. So, we're here to help people, not here to insult anybody. We're just here to get you on board, explain it to you. And then, of course, you have Google available if you wish to go down that rabbit hole and figure out all these nuances. It'll help your understanding, but it won't change the requirements. So you can either accept the requirements or you can question them. And when you question them, then you'll understand why they're there. But it won't change the requirements. It only changes your understanding. And that's up to you. But I do appreciate the question, and it's a common misconception on the internet. Lynn's Music said, I heard elephants are green now. Of course, I believed it instantly. There's a great Monty Python sketch. And I recall seeing this. See if I can find it. It's called Interesting Facts. So let's go to YouTube and type in Interesting Facts. Peter Cook. And let's go to my screen capture. And on The Secret Policeman's Ball, Peter Cook and John Cleese, Interesting Facts. This is the internet today. It's somebody's got a little bit of information, they're oversimplifying it and coming to imaginary conclusions and then claiming that that's the truth, that that's fact. Just because they said so and they choose to believe it, and now they're gossiping about this false information and complete misunderstanding that is so ridiculous anybody would know this is nonsense. But unfortunately today, people believe nonsense more so than they did back when this was made. It's only gotten worse. And if you want a good laugh, well, I recommend you watch this video right here. The more things change, the more things stay the same. And I think education-wise, I think society is not as smart as society was in the 70s. And I think technology is replacing our decision-making and education. But nothing's going to stop that from happening. And if people choose to become a part of that, that's a choice they make. I'm okay with it. I just don't think they're aware of it. They don't know any better. So anyway, enjoy that video if you've never seen it. It is hilarious, and it should remind you of Reddit. All right, let's get back over here to the questions. If there's anything else before we begin, before we continue, I should say. Mike Super says, Carrie, hope you're well. I recently upgraded my RTX 2080 to an RTX 5070 Ti. Upgraded my 750 watt power supply to 1000. I'll send some pictures. Right on. Yeah, please do. We love it when you guys share your builds with us and let us know if you're happy with it, or if you had any advice for anybody that was thinking of doing the same thing, if there's something you do different or wish you had knew. We love hearing that. And we'll pass it on so other people can be, if need be, more prepared. Okay, I don't see any other questions. So I guess it's time, since we've got the NVMe drive in there, we can put the cooler on now. One of the things I really, really like about the Mugen 5 in particular was its price point and its ease of install and how well it worked quietly and efficiently, just keeping the CPU nice and cool. Thermalright now was like half the price. So maybe today I would use a Thermalright cooler, but I have these in inventory. There's nothing wrong with them. But now you can buy equivalent or better coolers like Thermalright for half the money. Of course, we get a screwdriver, as always, with our Mugen cooler here, our Scythe Mugen. And I'll just throw that right over there. It's been a while. I'm a little rusty on this. Let's see what I remember. So here's our Intel backplate. And let's see if that's going to fit on there without adjustment. I love it. I didn't have to move anything right out of the box. Told you it's easy to put in, right? And then we'll have some brackets for AMD and Intel CPUs here. We've got fan buckles. These buckle the fan onto the cooler. We'll keep that with the fan. And then these are the screws used for mounting the back plate and then the cooler. Actually, the cooler has its own screws on it already. All this is already built up. On some coolers, you have to add this piece, this cross piece manually. It's just more labor. Much of this is already done for you. And even though it's out of the box with that particular socket size, they don't make this anymore. So that CPU is an older socket, since it's a, what I say it was, 13600. And now we're up to like the Ultra series. So it's one generation behind, really. But in computers, that might as well be the difference between elementary school and high school. So the first thing I want to do is take these rubber they're plastic spacers that have rubber on the bottom, but not on the top. The rubber is there to be gentle against the surface of your motherboard if you're wondering which side goes down. The rubber side goes down, and it keeps your board from having hard plastic up against your board, which can scratch it up. And if there's circuitry nearby, circuit traces, it could break those traces, which would be a bad motherboard design. But nonetheless, since Scythe has no idea what board you're going to use this on, maybe it's a board you built yourself for all they know. Maybe you don't know better. It's there to protect the board. Now, these standoffs, these are used on higher-end Intel CPUs. And these four here, these four thumb screws, these are going to secure down our brackets that bridge two of these together. And then the other one will bridge the other two. And then we have these really long screws here. And these are used for AMD motherboards, where you will screw it down right onto the backplate, since AMD already has a backplate that can be used. Intel's do not, unless, as I mentioned, the higher end Intel chips do, in which case you would use their backplate with these particular standoffs. So these can all go back in here because they're for other CPUs. It's a universal one size fits most type of a cooler. So you're always going to have a lot of spare parts since you're only using the parts equivalent for your board. Otherwise, you'd have to be very careful over what cooler you ordered, and you might have to send it back 2 or 3 times before you get the right cooler. Now you get one cooler, it covers them all, but you will have spare parts no matter what. Same is true with these brackets. We need 2 of these brackets, but they give us 6. Why are there 6? They're going to be used in pairs. There's one pair for older model Intel CPUs. There's these, what look like parentheses. These are used on AMD CPUs. We're definitely not going to use those. And you'll notice there's a pretty significant difference between these two in the number of holes they have. And that's because of the spacing on the different socket types between generations of Intel. And in order for them to, be universally compatible with, the last few generations, it's cheaper for them to just throw in these extra parts. So out of the 6, we're down to 4. We need 2 of them. So the question is, do we use the one that has the hole in the middle and that's all, or do we use the ones that have these other angled holes here? And I can't remember, to be honest, for this particular socket type, but very easily the documentation has got a lot of pictures and easy steps for every possible configuration. And basically, all the Intel LGA 1700, 1200, 1156, 1155, 1151, even 1150, that's all right here, just in this box. Then all the AMD, it's AM4, AM3, AM2+, FM2, FM2+, all of that is right here. That's it, that's the instructions. And on the flip side, we still have the higher end Intel, like the 2066 and the 2011s, which are way out of my budget. Those are like workstation chips, and that's instructions there. This other panel is just basically telling you everything you should have in the box, and just some basic information about what these devices are. This is a fan, this is the direction of the airflow. This is all pretty basic stuff for me anyway. So I ignore all this, I don't care. And what I'm looking at is if we have a socket 1700, I believe is what that is, then the brackets we need will be on this diagram. And it looks like just the single hole is what we need here. Now, traditionally, you want your cooler to go on where the fan is going to be facing the rear I/O. So the fan on this side will blow air through this directly out the back of the computer. So I don't want to mount it this way. I don't want the air going up or down. I want the air to go through this to the other side. So does it go on this way, or will I put it on this way? Well, you notice how this screw sticks out quite a bit? That's going to be towards your RAM. So if we were to put this in this way, then I know these brackets have to go in. Because you might ask yourself, how do I know if the brackets go horizontal or if they go vertical? We know we're connecting 2 of these, but they're all equal distances apart. But that isn't going to attach that way. And that's why I just did what I call a dry fit. I'm just looking at it and ascertaining, do these go on vertically or do these go on horizontally? So they're going to go on in this orientation. Now here's the other thing you'll notice. These aren't the same. Both of these are can face either direction. You'll notice there's a ridge here, and this side is completely smooth. Normally, if I recall correctly, this ridge is going to face towards the other one, and the other one will face towards it, like a mirror. And then there's a lip where this bends up, and that's to clear room below any capacitors that are below it. So it raises up just to avoid any potential contact with some motherboards. So this can go in 4 wrong ways. It can go in upside down, it can go in backwards, and it can go in vertically instead of, or horizontally instead of vertically. And there's one other way. Upside down, backwards, reversed, and on the wrong posts. I wish it was a little clearer, but you know, all I have to do to make this fit is turn this around so that those brackets or these pieces of metal that stick out face in towards the CPU. So I'll put one here, and this one, instead of there being a left and a right, let's say, you just turn it and put it back down. Okay, and I believe that's correct. One of the ways I know that's correct is the reason these have holes is so this can fit where the points that they're going down on, the screws that are coming up, they could be closer together or further apart on some Intel sockets. So by making these holes that each have 2 positions, that allows for a total of 4 different positions of this spacing between the screws that are coming up from the back plate, which varies depending on the size of the socket. Anyway, the directions make it very easy. If I've over explained it, always result to the documentation. It's just pictures and diagrams. You don't even have to understand any wording. You just see the picture, do what the picture shows, and follow the picture that suits the type of CPU that you have. You can't go wrong. And there are other YouTube videos that might explain it in a clearer way if need be. There's no shortage of YouTube videos these days. So I'm just taking these thumb screws now, and that's going to secure these brackets down. Don't over tighten. They don't have to be that tight. So for this, I can use my electric driver. You don't have to tighten them in any order. That's really all you have to do. If you want to be extra cautious, if it makes you feel better, you can go at it and just maybe turn it 1/10 of a turn. But be careful, because if you turn that too much, you'll snap the screw right off. That's not really a warranty issue, and you're out of luck. At that point, there's no spares. You're done. So don't be too overzealous. Don't overdo it. We're always looking for balance. We don't want them too loose. We don't want them too tight. We want to eat, but we don't want to overeat. If we want to take medication, don't take too much medication. And if you don't need medication, don't take it. We find the balance in all things in life. And it applies whether it's computers, it applies if it's food, it applies if it's medicine. I can't think of a single scenario, including money, where too much is a good thing and too little is also not a good thing. We're always looking for some balance. So these are all spare parts I don't need. We are going to need the screwdriver, however, because to secure this down, and remember, this screw that sticks out is going to go towards our RAM. It's going to go on like this. Now, well, I can easily access that screw right there. How do I get to this one down here? Well, that's where this comes in. There's a hole in the top, and we're going to slide that long screwdriver, that is the length and width to fit in there, and that will reach through the heatsink onto that mounting screw. So we can then tighten it down and then put the screwdriver away if you ever have to take this off. Most people don't have a screwdriver long enough that's also skinny enough to go that far and have the right size Phillips. So this is a good tool to use even for other projects around the house. You don't have to just save it for heatsink installation only. It's a great little tool. And it just bonus, it comes with your cooler. It's included in the price. Now, before I apply this, you know, this has tape protecting the surface of the heatsink here. That's all polished, and it's keeping all dust and fingerprints and oils from your skin off of it. So we're going to remove that plastic when we're ready to install. They've included thermal compound for us. That's also with this unit, and they're not stingy with it. They actually give you enough for applying this about 3 times on average. So what I need to do, because this has been exposed and it's dusty and who knows if it's been touched, if we want the best cooling possible, we want to clean that. On the other hand, if we don't clean it, it's probably going to run fine. But I swear, if you have that attitude, please don't work on computers. If you take no pride in your work, let somebody else do it. So for me, if I'm going to do this job, I'm not going to be lazy. I'm not going to take shortcuts. I'm going to do it right, or I'm not going to do it. That's it. Make a choice. I'll pay somebody else to do it. Yeah, there's a nice coating of dust right on this. But again, it's not like dust is going to prevent the CPU from cooling. It just won't cool as well. But it's probably going to stay within the tolerance unless you overclock it or torture it, overvolt it or something. At the end of the day, it won't make a whole lot of difference. But what does make a difference is pride. And what makes a difference is in, especially if you're building a computer for somebody else, that out of respect for the other person, you would not take advantage of them. They're trusting you. And you are betraying their trust. Because if you were honest and said, I'm not going to build this the recommended way and I'm going to take shortcuts, is that okay with you? I bet you most of the time people will say, no, never mind. If you want to do that for yourself, knock yourself out. I'm not telling you not to. But when someone's paying you to do a job, they expect you to do it professionally, to do it right. And if you're not going to do it right, you shouldn't be doing it at all. And usually, this is a problem that solves itself, where the people that are not very good at their job just don't do it very long. So if you really want to do this sincerely, and you want to give yourself a best chance of success, take some pride in the quality that you're working with other people's equipment, with other people's money. Treat it with respect, even if you don't do that at home. If you work at a restaurant that serves food you don't particularly like or find good, that doesn't mean it's okay to just cook it without any care. Like, if you're not going to take any care in what you're preparing for other people to eat, please don't do it. And likely you won't have that job very long anyway. All right, that's the way I see the world, right or wrong. And it's worked out well for me for almost 35 years. So that's since day one. I have no reason to suspect there's a better way. I only know of worse ways. And I know because I see businesses in my line of work go out of business constantly. They very rarely last 2 or 3 years, and they're gone. 5 years at most. Anybody who's been doing this more than 5 years, that's a good sign. Because you're taking shortcuts and you think close enough is good enough, you likely have not been doing this 5 years. You won't be. It's possible, it's just not likely. All right, let me grab some isopropyl alcohol. Let's get the top of the CPU cleaned off for all those reasons, regardless if it's necessary. We're going to do it right. That's all that matters. I've made a lot of money from people who couldn't be bothered to do it right and then end up paying me to fix it. So I'm a terrible businessman. I should be giving you advice to take corners. It's really good for my business. And that's good for my reputation, because I'm known as the guy that can fix other people's problems that they themselves created. It's not a bad reputation to have, but it's not necessarily the reputation I was ever going for. I just want to be hired to do a job. I don't want to be hired to clean up somebody else's mess because they were too lazy to do it themselves. But it pays the same, regardless of what I want. Work is work, and I'll take it. But if that was the only jobs I ever got, was fixing other people's mistakes all day, I don't want to be a janitor. That's all I needed to do. It's pretty much just the 99% isopropyl alcohol. I got this off Amazon for like $8 or something, delivered right to my door, and then just regular Q-tips. It air dries, it evaporates, so we'll give that a minute to do that. And let me move this back, and I need a nitrile glove to apply the thermal compound, which I keep over here off camera next to the Q-tips and alcohol here. Grab my glove. So don't misunderstand me. I don't mind fixing people's mistakes. I just want to do more than that. I don't want that to just be all I do, because then I wouldn't want to do this anymore. But yeah, it's expected that you will do some of it, for sure, and no problem. Just not all the time. Balance. All right, let's turn this way. Let's go to camera 2, see if I can get you a close-up better than that. So again, there's it'd be better if I had a top-down camera, but I don't have anywhere to put it. I hope this thermal compound is still, oh yeah, it looks good. I'm just going to eyeball a little bit on there. And I'm going to also need some glasses for my eyeballs because I might have put too much on there. So what I'm going to do is finger paint, just as though this were like an oil paint. And if I put too much on, it's okay. And if I put too little on, that's okay too. Because what it'll do is it'll stick to the finger on the glove. So if I want to take some excess off, just use another finger, right? I've already removed some. And continue to finger paint any areas that are not painted. Try and make it balanced, even. Just like when you paint a wall, you don't want the paint dripping, and you don't want one area of the wall that seems like it's too thin and you can see through to the previous color of paint you once had. And if you still feel like you've got too much on there, you see what I'm doing here? I'm tapping up and down on it. This is doing two things. One, it's removing excess, again, onto a clean finger. And it's also creating these little peaks and valleys so that when we place the heatsink on top, it removes any sort of air bubbles or anything that could form, which again also don't exist as an actual problem in reality, but they do exist as a psychological problem on the internet. So to resolve that, it's very difficult to deal with psychological problems online because people, people are people. I can't turn a screwdriver into their head and fix their psychology. It's easier to simply give them what they want so they're quiet and don't create a stir over their particular psychological preferences. But I'm telling you, as an independent thinker, that's a toxic and very contagious attitude that makes no scientific difference in reality. It's all up to your own attitude, and I'm encouraging you to be a critical thinker and understand that who's the information coming from. I've been in this industry for 34 years, going on 35 years here soon. And I've either been really damn lucky, or I might just know a thing or two from some experience, even if I'm a complete moron. If I've been repeating the same job, the same process for 34 years, no matter how dumb I might be, after 34 years, something must have sticked, right? I mean, just logically, I must be doing something right. I may not be doing everything right, but I must be. Just through repetition. If I keep hammering on a piano for 30 years, I'm probably going to learn to play a few songs, and I might actually play them pretty good. Just logically, but maybe I'm wrong. All right, with our thermal compound applied, we'll go ahead and remove this protective film from the bottom of the heatsink here. And this is an important step to remember. And again, with the screw sticking out, that's going to go towards the RAM. So we can go back to camera 2. And we're going to set it down just like that. And we'll take the screwdriver here. We're just going to get this screw started, just a couple turns, like so. Then we're going to come in through the top, and we're going to get the other side started. Now this is the one where you want to say, okay, we want to evenly tighten these down. We don't want one side tightened than the other side. Just like a car tire, if you've ever replaced a car tire, you always go to the opposite screw on an angle. You make what's a star pattern on most tires. And that ensures that the wheel is flush against the hub, or you end up with a wheel that wobbles and your driving is going to be all wonky. And then your tire might fall off if you keep ignoring it. So it doesn't have to be exactly precise, but you can feel it and just kind of go back and forth. And these screws should come to a complete and dead stop And when they do, stop turning them. You've reached the end. That's it. All that's left is to put our fan on, and the fan is going to go on near the RAM. And I need this power cable to plug in to the CPU fan header, which is over here. So why would I put this on back here and run that cable all the way? Why would I put this on this way and then have this cable exposed and run it down? So, well, you can absolutely do that. The normal professional way is to make sure you're keeping in mind where your cable is going to be, running the shortest possible route and be out of sight so people don't have to look at it. And we want the airflow to go through the heatsink. So this part of the fan that rotates around, that's your intake. And this part of the fan that has the supports and the sticker in the middle, that when the fan spins, you notice this side doesn't spin. That sticker always stays right. That's the side the air's coming out. All right, so with that in mind, we can grab these fan buckles. Now they give you enough fan buckles for a fan on each side. I personally think a fan on each side is stupid. It's a waste of money. It might drop your temp a whole 3 degrees Celsius. If that really matters, you have built your system wrong. Okay. But regardless of that, you can keep the spare buckles if you want to do it. Regardless that I think it's a waste of money and just adds more noise and dust to your system. It's your choice to make bad decisions, and they're giving you that option here, but you will have to source the fan yourself. So we're going to just build this the way it's intended to be built with the parts that they include that are complete. So to put the fan buckles on, we're simply going to put them through the screw holes in each corner. And remember, this can go on multiple different ways. So if I know that I'm going to attach the fan this way, I know these fan buckles have to be in this orientation, not the other way around and not to other sides. And then those will clip into the slots on the side of the heatsink. And then my cable will come out at the bottom closest to the connector that it's going to plug into. It's all very logical and clean, but it will still work even if it's not clean or logical. So we'll put that on like so. And I'm going to line the fan up, pretty much let it rest on the bottom. And there are little recesses on the Mugen 5 that the fan slides into. And I just pull back on that clip and it locks it in. Now, this clip fell off. That's okay. Just hold the fan in place. Reattach the buckle or the clip. Like, yeah, the RAM is in the way. Of course it is. It's Murphy's Law. So rather than try and force that, just take a minute, take this back off, and let me try one more time. I'll put this on where I'm not having to fight with the RAM. And bring it down as far as it'll go. Line it into the grooves on the heatsink so that it doesn't vibrate and make any noise, and it looks nice and clean. Try and make sure it's even, that one side is not higher than another side, and then pull back on these buckles and they lock in. That's it. Then we're going to take our CPU fan header and plug it into where it says CPU fan on the motherboard. You see how short of a run that is? That's it. So with our NVMe drive installed, with our cooler installed, we can finally turn this on and we can start to install, we can look for a new BIOS update, for example, and put Windows 11 on it. We still have thermal compound left over. We still have these extra fan buckles. We still have these extra screws and brackets. If you choose to throw them away or you want to keep them in case you switch to a different processor, could be Intel, could be AMD, then they will likely be compatible unless it's a new generation of a different socket size, in which case the cooler will not be compatible. And I always hold on to the screwdriver because it's still a great screwdriver, not just for heatsink installs. So with that done, we can take our power supply and plug it back in. And again, this little tiny power supply provides more than enough power for this. And then the CPU power, that'll go on next. And I can plug the keyboard back in, which I guess I didn't really have to remove. This has a built-in I/O shield, which I appreciate, so we don't have that separate metal I/O shield anymore. I need a power switch, so we'll slap that on here real quick. That's going to go in this corner. Power switch should go on those last two pins, all the way at the end here. Top row. Okay. And then I need an HDMI output so we can see what video output we get here. Make sure that it boots. Check for a BIOS update. And then we can install Windows 11. Then all this can go into the old case. Hook it all the wires back up, and job done. It's that easy. And again, a lot of that's because the cable management makes it easy. But let me come back over to HDMI 3 here. So that means I need to take camera 1, put it into a corner like this. Okay, and then let's turn the power supply on. Yeah, I did. Power button. Here we go. Fan spinning. That fan is spinning. The RGB lights up on the RAM. Hopefully we'll get a post. We get an ASRock symbol on the screen. We'll go into the BIOS and we'll check our BIOS version. Our first boot up may take a few seconds longer than what you might expect. Well, it's training the RAM and the CPU. It's been off for such a long time, it's probably lost its settings because it's been unplugged and turned off. So just give it a good few seconds, or minute and a half, 2 minutes. It will eventually come up if you built everything correctly. It says we've got a B760M Pro. It's the RSD4 version. 605 is our BIOS version right up here. So I'm going to go over here on the streaming computer. I'm going to open a browser, and I'm going to search for ASRock B760M Pro RSD4. There is a D5 or DDR5 version, so it's important we get all those correctly to get the right BIOS, along with the word BIOS. And the Google results here, which I'll share with you when I share the screen. These are my Google results. I click on this first one, it's taking me to ASRock. I click for support down here. Support up here is for ASRock support in general. Support down here is for the specific ASRock product. And under BIOS, let's see what version is available. 11.01. And that came out October 7th. That means it came out 3 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago. Obviously, I don't have that version. I think we were at 605 from over a year ago. So we're going to go ahead and download that. All right. With that downloaded, all I'm going to do at this point, and it's a difficult thing for me to show you, but I'm going to grab a flash drive here. This is an empty flash drive. I always keep an empty flash drive specifically for this purpose, and we'll plug it in anywhere here. And sorry, not in here. We're going to plug it into the streaming computer because that's where I downloaded the file from. I'm going to go to my downloads folder on the streamer, and I'm going to extract that zip file that we just grabbed. And it contains a .rom file. That's all it has in it. I'm going to right click on that and choose copy. I'm going to go to my flash drive and click paste. So we're just moving that file out of the zipped container. We're extracting it and then moving it over to the flash drive. Pretty small file, it's like 16 megs. And then I'll close those windows on the streamer, and I'm going to pull the flash drive out. This is the only file on this flash drive, so you can't get it wrong. I'm going to plug the flash drive anywhere in this computer, doesn't matter. Any USB port should be the same, should work equally. And then what we're going to do, we may have to restart the computer, or just give it a minute. And if I move camera 1, let's just get rid of camera 1. You don't need to see my mug. We click where it says Instant Flash. And it says, hey, you got better make sure you don't have BitLocker enabled. Right, okay. It already finds the file on the flash drive. Remember, the hard drive or the solid state drive, the NVMe drive, however many different words we can use to describe it, is brand new out of the box. So there's no partition, there's no format, there's no operating system. It could be used in a Mac or a Linux machine. The manufacturer has no idea. And this BIOS says, as far as I can tell, the only formatted storage drive that you have on the system is that flash drive with this file on it. So it deduces this must be what you wanted. And of course, you can rescan if you've made some changes, but that is exactly what we wanted. It kind of does the work for us. Hit the update button, and it says, are you sure? I am sure. And just let it do its thing. Just leave it alone. Leave it alone. And give it a couple minutes to do what you've asked it to do. So while we're waiting, if you have any questions, let me go back over to the chat room and see what I've been missing. Greg Casabona renewed his membership, now a member for 26 months. He said, I have an AMD Ryzen 7 9800X3D with a Gigabyte Aorus Elite Wi-Fi 7 board, and I've got no issues running the computer 2 weeks now. The computer case is a Montech XR computer case. Right on. Well, congrats, man. You obviously did it right. We love hearing of your builds and even your frustrations and mistakes or oversights, because we all learn from each other. Arnold wants to know, have the fixes been applied since this is a 13th gen CPU? Yeah, those fixes were applied back in June of 2024. So I'd say, yeah, that has not been an issue. You know, I talk about the type of content that I make is very perishable. And it doesn't behoove me or my viewers to leave old, outdated content up. This is the kind of harm old, outdated content has. Because there was a problem back around January, February, March of 2024 that was resolved at the latest by this time last year, and that's it. It's done. They've since released a whole new series of processors, the Ultra series. Those also had BIOS updates to address performance issues. Those updates are now done. That's all in the past. The Synology drive restrictions, we can work through scripts to get around it, but now it's no longer a thing. You just update your Synology to the latest 7.3 Disk Station Manager software, and you no longer have to work around it. So that video is no longer valid, no longer applies. And anybody who watches it and doesn't know that would falsely believe that that's a thing. It isn't a thing anymore. We talk about Windows updates, breaking SSDs. Never was a thing, but still the content creators who admit they got it wrong still leave that old, perished content up. And somebody's going to watch that for the first time with no context and not realize that's never been a thing. It's not a thing, and those content creators are getting paid, and they are knowingly and willfully leaving the content up. So you as a viewer, you've got to stay on top of things, because especially when we talk about stuff like this, if I'm showing you how to bake a loaf of bread, that will be the same recipe for 1,000 years, eternity. But if I'm telling you the price of gas today, you know that gas is not 79 cents a gallon, right? And if you see somebody talking about how gas is 79 cents a gallon, that's not normal in 2025. But if this was in 1975, you wouldn't think anything of it. It is critical that you understand the difference between topical news and, you know, history. This drives me crazy because so many people are so far behind. And they're talking about things that are just not things anymore. And I mean just in everyday life. Did you hear Dodge isn't going to make gasoline engines anymore? Yeah, no, that's not true. It was true, but they realized they couldn't sell any cars. So they changed their mind. Oh, so they got a piece of information that's old and never got updated on it. And that's okay to ask these questions because we'll bring you up to speed. But that's been over a year now. So I'm surprised you haven't heard any updates in a year. That's been resolved a year ago, just so you know. When Ace Magic had malware on their system or spyware, they made a mistake. Are they still doing that? That was resolved 2 years ago. It's never happened again. Once they were aware of it, they corrected it. It's never happened again. All the machines they've sold in the last 2 years haven't had that problem. They had the problem once for a little period of time. It got reported on excessively. And now somebody's probably got a video up saying, don't buy this Ace Magic computer. That was published 2.5 years ago. And somebody thinks, oh my gosh, I better not buy an Ace Magic. No. Unless you have a time machine, that's all gone now. It's no longer news. It no longer applies. You don't poop in diapers anymore, do you? Because you did when you were a baby. So I guess you still do now? That's all I'm saying. It's like there's information out there that if you go looking for it, it's not hard to find. But they're not going to make a lot of content saying, hey, this is fixed. All the money is driven by saying this is broken. When it's fixed, very few people will talk about it. So when the Synology drive restrictions were in place, there's tons of videos whining and complaining like little babies. But when it's been fixed, very few videos are made to talk about it because they don't generate revenue. They're not exciting. They're not titillating. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just doesn't make money. And people aren't searching for good news. They just want to be scared and frightened all the time. And that's why you watch your evening news. It's pretty much all bad news. They might have a feel-good story at the end, if there's time. And if it was all feel-good stories, they wouldn't get the ratings. So this is apparently what we want as viewers. But be aware of it, and understand that things don't usually last as an issue for very long, especially in the technology world where technology is replaced so rapidly. We go from one generation to another generation pretty much annually. So even if one generation is bad, at most it's a year. And if it's not resolved, they just won't make it or sell it anymore. And if it is resolved, it's going to be one or the other within a year. They'll simply pull the product if it can't be resolved, where it's financially feasible. And Intel also gave all those chips a 5-year warranty worldwide. So if you have a 13th or 14th gen CPU, no matter where you live in the world, Intel is saying, no matter what, for the next 5 years, we're going to give you a cost-free replacement if there's any problem with it. And that is actually a much more generous warranty than any other Intel CPU on the market. So it's actually better to buy the 13th and 14th gen for peace of mind in that warranty, because you won't find it on any other Intel CPU. All food for thought. All right, so here it says, we're done. Press enter to reboot. So I'll click OK, same thing. But what I'm trying to get at is this technology moves very quickly. And if you're asking anything a year later, it's probably not the same with regards to any problems that were a year ago. Like, I'm testing the Nano KVM Pro, and I've got some problems with it. We recently had an update, did not resolve my problems, but I just found on Twitter today they released another update. This first year of this product is going to get a lot of updates, and hopefully when it's all said and done, I will have more positive things to say about it. But right now, it's still developing. It's still growing up. It's still a baby. You got to give it time to mature. If you don't want to give it time to mature, then don't buy it when it's still a baby. Don't purchase it. All right, so we've got 4 sticks of 8 gigs of RAM. That's how we got to 32 gigs. I just noticed that on the BIOS. And we can verify our BIOS version is now version 11.01. That's current. And now I'm going to take this flash drive and I'm going to erase the file I put on it. So it's blank again. It goes back in my drawer. So the next time we do a BIOS update, I don't have multiple BIOS options and I have to pick the right one. As long as there's only one file on this thing at any given time, I can't pick the wrong file. It's just keeping it simple. It's an 8 gig flash drive. They sell for about $2.66 a piece. I don't mind. I use it quite often. All right, so with that done, we can grab now the Windows 11 installation media and start our install process. So I've got a video that shows you how to make this. We use Rufus. people talk about Windows taking away the local account. They keep saying this every 6 months. All these content creators come out, and the viewers keep clicking on this nonsense. The viewers still continue to be so gullible. They buy it every single time. And these content creators are cleaning up financially by manipulating their viewers. I'm strongly encouraging that if you're not already more in control of awareness of what you're watching and who's creating it, where the information is coming from, that you have the wherewithal to realize you're watching content creators talking about a beta version of Windows that's not been released. And they've done this every 6 months now for at least 2 to 3 years, because the betas continually require a Microsoft account. So they wrongly assume that you can't create a local account because it can't be done on the betas. But here's the thing. How did they get the betas? You have to sign in the Microsoft account to get the beta. Like, are they just this dumb, or are they doing this on purpose? So once again, you're going to see a lot of things. Oh, Microsoft's removing the local account. No, they're not. It's not possible. Not with Windows 11. Even if Microsoft attempts it, it's sort of like Synology trying to block drives, and it's not. It's all an illusion. And in this case, Microsoft has never actually publicly released a version of Windows with the local account disabled. There's always been very easy ways to work around that. One is using Rufus, and I don't deal with it. But even if what they say is true this time, even though the last 5 times they said it, they lied, oh, maybe they're telling the truth this time. If they are, trust me, I'll have a workaround for it. There's no such thing. Don't get worked up. And please don't click on those videos. All you're doing is encouraging them to make more. I'm tired of it. Haven't you been led by the nose so many times where they've lied to you that you just keep going back for more? Stop it. Or maybe you like it. I don't like it. Maybe I'm wrong to assume everybody doesn't like being led by the nose and lied to, but I personally am not a fan of it, and I have very little respect for any content creator that does that. All right, so my Windows 11 flash drive is in here. All I have to do now is basically cycle the power, or yeah, we'll just cycle the power. It's just easier. Let's turn everything back on. And now the only bootable device this has on it is that Windows 11 flash drive. So I don't have to go into the BIOS. I don't have to override any boot settings. The only option, when this turns on, it says, can I boot to the NVMe drive? No, there's no partition, there's no format. Can I boot to any other media? Is there an optical drive? No, there isn't. Is there a flash drive? Yes, there is. Is it bootable? Yes, it is. Well, that's all that's left. So logically, it knows to go ahead and boot to that. So watch. You don't have to get into a BIOS. You don't have to manipulate date and time. You don't have to manipulate boot order. All of that is from 15 and 20 years ago. If you're still doing it today, I strongly encourage you to embrace the new technology that does all this for you. In some ways, that's keeping us dumber, but on the other way, it's making us less prone to mistakes. Of course, if you're not making mistakes, you're not learning anything. But if there's nothing to be gained from the knowledge, what's the point anyway? So what I'm going to do here is the same thing I do every single time. Wrong video, Carrie. Let me go full screen over here on my desktop. There it is. So English language, yeah. Keyboard method, US. Install Windows 11, yes. Next. Remember, I have no Ethernet cable plugged into this. We're not going to put a product key in at this time. So I'm going to click I don't have a product key. It says, but if you don't have a product key, how am I going to know what version of Windows to put in? Well, I'm not a moron. I know I'm buying a product key later for Windows 11 Pro. If I'm buying a product key for Windows 11 Home, I better put the one on that I'm buying the product key for later. So I know I'm putting in Pro. Those are really my only 2 options. I've never used anything other than Pro or Home. And I can't see why anybody would unless you work for a company and you're being instructed to do so by a boss. So we're going to hit next. Applicable notices on these terms, fine, accept. And this disk 1, that's the flash drive we're booting from that has Windows 11 installation on it, the media. Disk 0 is the new drive we put in. That's the 500 gig drive. It has no partitions on it. Just hit next. And it says, oh, you're ready to go? Yep, hit install and off to the races. And this will be no time and we'll have Windows 11. Once we have Windows 11 installed, I'll take the flash drive out, I'll plug it into the network, we'll download Windows updates and drivers. At that point, if everything's cool, we're not running into any blue screens or crashes, this can then go back in the case. We'll secure the motherboard back down, plug the cables back in, put the side panel back on, it's ready to go back to the customer. It's that fast, from teardown to rebuild. Now granted, this motherboard was mostly prepped for us. A lot of the parts, a lot of the time can be spent just getting the parts out of the boxes. That's the hard part. And then you got to figure out what to do with all those boxes. Mark Baggett said, I followed your guide, Carrie, and made a bootable Windows USB with Rufus just a few days ago. Thank you. Yeah, it's a solid way to do it. And again, when you watch all this nonsense from these other content creators that are in it for the clicks to scare you and give you, you know, is it false information? Are they lying when they're talking about using a beta version of Windows? A lot of times they're not disclosing it. And what they are saying is this is what's coming. But they don't really know that. They've been saying this is what's coming for about every 6 months for the last 2 to 3 years, and it's never ever arrived. So at some point, you know, there's a couple of fables. The Boy Who Cried Wolf and Chicken Little. And there's never been a better time to teach our children today, young children, because we missed 2 generations, maybe 3 generations of kids that did not get told these stories. So they're, you know, the emperor's new clothes. I don't know what happened in our education system, but apparently these kids don't know, and young adults have never heard these stories and are completely dumbfounded when you mention it. You know, to them, you're talking like an old person. Well, to me, you're acting like a barbarian. So if I'm talking like an educated, mature adult and you sound like an uneducated person from 250 years ago, we're both going to see each other with a lack of respect, quite frankly. So if they learn it from their teachers when they're still young and impressionable, then likely we'll have adults that can say, oh, wait a minute, you know, this reminds me of a story I heard a long time ago. That's me. I have all the solutions, right? I don't know, but it just seems like it definitely had an effect on me, teaching me that. I would think it would be similar for most people if you learn it at a young enough age. And if those stories were, if I was robbed of those stories, if those fables were not told to me, I would probably be the very reason those fables exist. Jim Kenny wants to know, on the Corsair 200R case, don't you install the motherboard first and the CPU power connector in the left corner? It leaves no room. You know what? It is a tight fit in a 200R. But there's a couple ways around this. Yeah, you can install the motherboard first if you want to. And in fact, if I wasn't making a video, I could work in the case and I'd already have the job done. I wouldn't have to explain to an audience what I'm doing. I wouldn't have to show the audience what I'm doing, because when it's in a case, you won't see anything. So when you ask your question, do you keep in mind I'm making a video right now and that you're on the opposite side of the table and I'm often having to work backwards? And you'd say, well, Carrie, wouldn't it make sense for you to work forwards? Well, not if I'm making a video. How's that good for you? So I need you to understand that when you're watching a content creator building on a desk, they're trying to show you stuff. If I don't need to show anybody anything, of course I would do it differently. But what good would that do you to not be able to see? All you're going to see is a black box in my hands going in, and mysteriously it's done. But that doesn't mean there's only one way to do it. I'm going to get this board in there and I'm going to hook the power cable up. And there's a couple different ways that we can do that with ease. And there's a couple different ways we can do it the hard way. And no, it's absolutely not required. What's preferred and what's easier depends on whether or not you're making a video for an audience or not. So again, you know, just something to keep in mind. All right, let's go back over to full screen here so I can whoops, so I can see, there we go. And I appreciate your question, Jim. I think a lot of people forget they're watching a video. They forget there are things are done differently on camera than when you watch a chef cook, they're doing it for the camera. That may not be how the chef cooks when the camera's not on them. They probably work much, much faster, and they're not worried about lighting and angles and things blocking the counter, things like that. Let's go back over to full screen on my side. Okay, now I can see. So yeah, United States is what I want here. Remember, we are not plugged into the internet. I want to click yes, skip. Right here it says I don't have internet. That's thanks to Rufus, by the way. So we don't have to worry about all this bypass on our own nonsense or start CXH, whatever it is. That's all nonsense. All right, let's go user for the username, enter, blank password. And I leave my location settings on. That's going to fix all the date and time settings, not only now, but even for daylight saving. It'll adjust automatically. As the clock gains or loses minutes naturally, as it does, it'll automatically adjust that indefinitely. So I prefer to leave that setting on for that reason. Now it's going to apply those changes that I've selected as it prepares our desktop. At this point, I no longer need the flash drive installed. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that, put it back into my drawer so it can be ready to be used the next time we need it. You don't have to worry about safely ejecting it. You can if you want to, but at this point, I'm kind of bored. Gives me something to do. So I unplug the flash drive, put it away while I'm waiting. Once the desktop comes up, I'm going to plug the Ethernet cable into it. So well, again, I'm bored. I'm going to look down at the floor, find my Ethernet cable, and get ready. Nothing drives me crazier than being in a grocery store or a fast food restaurant and people are waiting in line and they don't know what they want to order. So at a fast food restaurant, you've been waiting in line and they say, how can I help you? And you're like, well, let me see, what do I want? No, you should have been doing that while you were waiting. There's people behind you, for crying out loud. Or you go to the grocery store and somebody, the cashier's ringing up 75 different items and they go, okay, your total today is going to be $200. And then the person opens their wallet and goes, let me find my card. No, you should have been finding your card while they were ringing you up so that you had your card in hand. And so when they gave you your total, you can immediately do your part because, again, there's people behind you. All right. Ask me how I really feel. All right, so now if you watch this bottom right corner, right down here, you see that globe? That shows you I'm not connected to the internet. So I'm going to grab my Ethernet cable, which I should have grabbed till I was moaning, complaining, and plug it in and give that just a second. And you'll see that down here in the bottom right corner, you'll see that start to flash. And then that's obtaining an IP address from the router right now. Now there's likely some items here that don't have drivers. I don't know what they are, but right here it says, do you want a one-step install for the drivers? Yeah, sure. This is coming directly from ASRock, and it will do this on a new install. This is really handy because if we look in the device manager, there's likely some drivers missing. Yeah. Do you know what these are? Don't care, because ASRock's going to take care of it for us automatically. And it may even find newer drivers that are newer versions than what the Windows installer gave us. So even though there's items there that say they're fine, there could be updates. So this software is going to do all of that. It's going to fulfill the drivers you're missing and update drivers you already have, if that applies. And you'll see we're only getting drivers. We're not getting any third-party software. We're not getting any antivirus or anything like that. So everything is already checked for me. All I have to do is click Update. During installation, your system may reboot. Yeah, that's a normal part of driver installation. And it's determining, it's already determined what those missing drivers are, and it's grabbing the official drivers. Anybody that's still using a driver piece of software like Driver Boost or any of this other utility nonsense, you're living in the past, man. All those days are gone. Unless you're working on really old systems, then continue to do things the old way. But you know, I'm not crank starting my car anymore. Those days are long past us. And if you still choose to crank your engine over by hand, nobody's stopping you. But I just can't imagine what the hell you're thinking. So I strongly encourage people to embrace this new technology, because technology makes things better. It comes with some side effects, but it's still overall better. And that's why we embrace cell phones and we don't use landlines, generally speaking. This is why we embrace a brand new car versus keeping a car from 1935. In fact, if you have a car from 1935, you probably cherish it more as a museum piece than you do drive it every day. It's just not practical to drive it every day. That being said, I don't think there's any denying technology makes things better. We have introduced new frustrations with technology, so it's not like there's no downside to it. But usually, based on looking around the world that surrounds me, I see more newer cars, 10 years old or less, than any other age of car on the road. Tires are built better. Anti-lock brakes are fantastic. Airbags, crumple zones, everything's been so improved. Sound systems in cars are so much better. Ride quality is better. Horsepower is better. Gas mileage is better. The overall look and design I personally find more appealing, but that's just personal taste. And it also adds a lot of complexity, right? Bluetooth and satellite navigation, all this other stuff that can absolutely complicate the car and create some problems when things don't work, that if you never had that feature would have never broken. I like knowing when my tire pressure is low. My dashboard tells me. I remember cars where you just had to look at the tire or check it. So with winter coming and fall is here, temperature's dropping, air pressure's going down. If you haven't checked your tire pressure, you should, unless your car has already told you. But if you drive an older car, that's on you to check it. See, those of us with modern cars, we have sensors in the wheels, and that lets us know. I'm just saying. I prefer that. Maybe you don't. I don't have to wonder what my tire pressure is. At any point, I can pull it up on my dashboard. And that's just one example of how technology's made things so much better. But again, there is a balance. There is always going to be some potential side effect to that you might find worse. And at the end of the day, it's really about what society is doing, not what you're doing. And it's clear if you look around you, the choice society is making. And that's what drives the industry, and that's what makes available options for you to choose from. Now, let's see if I can change this resolution. Go to display settings. I clicked the wrong thing. Right click, display settings. We got to be in 4K. I want to be 1920 by 1080 so I can read it. That's better. And I noticed this thing did not reboot. I'm sure all our drivers are in, but I'll feel better if I reboot. I'm sure if it needed a reboot, it would have told me, but I'm just going to go ahead and reboot anyway. Turn that off. And let's restart. All right, so while that restarts, it should start up a lot faster now. It may still be putting some updates in the background too. So bear that in mind, even though we didn't intentionally go and check, we were probably getting them whether we liked it or not behind the scenes. And that may slow down our boot time while those updates finish installing. Regardless, I'm going to go back to Windows Update and check on our reboot. And Mark Leibowitz said he had a car that had a low tire pressure warning system. What happened was that the air pressure was too low in the tire would start going thump, 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 thump. It's a little late then. My system lets me know long before that happens. But yeah, I suppose technically you've always had that as long as you can hear it. All right, let's go back over to full screen one more time for me. It's full screen for you, by the way. So this is just for me. And we're going to hit Windows Update. And since 25H2 just come out, and that's what our install media is made from, there shouldn't be too many updates waiting. I like to turn this feature on, and I also like to go to advanced setting. Where is it? advanced options, and I'd like to turn on this option. These are my preferences. You don't have to agree. I like to turn those on. I also want to make sure that the screen is not going to go to sleep on us, so I'm going to check my power, edit, power plan, enter. Yeah, see, it was set to go to sleep after 5 minutes. I'm going to say go to sleep after 3 hours, or turn off the display. I never want a computer to go to sleep unless it has batteries. If this was a laptop, that's a different story. Otherwise, I don't even think Microsoft should offer that, in my opinion. Creates a lot of support calls. They've made a lot of money from sleep mode, where computers have no benefit from sleep mode. It's a person's psychological issue. It's not a technology issue. So, whatever. All right, here, this is the search highlights. I like to get rid of that. I could type in maybe highlight. Yeah, it says show search highlights, press enter. And the box right here, this got a black border, highlights what we were searching for. Turn that off in our little search highlights down here, go away permanently. In the meantime, I suppose that's all I need to do for now. We'll let that download. And while that's downloading, you and I can chat because we're just over the 2-hour mark, really. I like to keep these around 2 hours. Lately, we've been running around 3 hours, which is fine. I'm happy to stick around. But basically, once this is all done, everything looks perfect. I'll get a license key over at VIP-URCDKEys. But I want to wait and make sure this works before I buy the license key, because that license key stays tied to this motherboard. If you have to send this board back, the license key goes with it, and you'll have to buy another license key when you get your replacement board. So don't be in any hurry to activate Windows. Activating Windows doesn't really do anything. It gets rid of a watermark and it lets you change your wallpaper and stuff like that. Windows will work forever without an activation. Forever, with very few restrictions other than maybe changing your wallpaper and having a watermark that says you haven't activated Windows. That's it. There should be no reason why you're in any hurry to activate Windows. When I've got the motherboard back in the case and I feel like everything is good, cable management's done, I've run all my testing on it, I've run Cinebench, we've checked it for heat, we checked the performance of the NVMe drive, we make sure everything's working the way it's supposed to. The last thing, before the customer gets it, there's one last thing we do. That's when we activate the Windows, and that's exactly why we do it. You don't have to do it that way. You can do it any way you want. I'm just telling you. There's a method behind my madness, and it's about saving money and getting it done right the first time with as little extraneous effort. You know, just do what's needed when it's needed. Don't try and put the cart before the horse. It's not going to work out for you a lot of times, and you can if you want to. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm telling you how I do it and the reason why I do it that way. All right, let me go full screen on camera 1 since there's not a whole lot for us to see going on over here now. And let's see what the chat room has to say. I'm just reading through your chats if you're wondering why I'm staring off in the distance. Squirrel.
John Williams says, thank you for the live stream today to both me and Mara. It's been a while since I've seen a Corsair 200R, he says. Great build and have a nice weekend. You know what? And I've got another one to do after this. I don't know that I have the same board, but I mean, for this client, I'm not putting the same board in for the client's benefit. I do it for my benefit. So if everything's the same and there's a problem, I don't do it one way for one computer and another way for another computer. However, it's at my discretion on what suits the customer's needs and budget. And I feel like the boards don't really have to be the same since they have already a variety. They didn't buy all their computers at once from me. All their computers came from me in different times. And whatever time they ordered it was what board and CPU they got. So they've got 4 different generations of motherboard in use. This is the downside of buying, 2 or 3 at a time, is you're going to end up with 2 or 3 that get older soon, before the others do. And that's where we're at right now. These 2 that came in were all that's left of that generation. All the prior generations has already been gone. They've already been repaired or not repaired, upgraded or replaced. And all the computers were built by me. Just not at the same time. And depending on what time they were built, depends on what motherboard and processor they got. So for this client, if I have this board laying around, I have another board that's close enough, it's not going to make any difference. They're all mostly different anyway. So support for me is still a challenge where I have to figure out which system are we looking at. I log in remotely. It's not that big of a deal, but I can't update a BIOS remotely on an ASRock, but I can do it on a Gigabyte. Is that important? It's nice, but if I can do it remotely, it's nice. But with ASRock, I'd need to use a nano KVM to do it. So it's not that important. Or I have to go on site and do it on site, but I cannot do it remotely like I can with a Gigabyte board. They do have some Gigabyte boards. They have some ASRock boards. I don't know which are which. When they call me with a problem, if they call me with a problem, I'll figure that out and cross that bridge. So whether or not I build these all the same today still doesn't replace everything else they've got. And so that's part of the process of figuring out what's right for this particular client. That may not be the same decision for another client. But these are part of the decisions I make because I'm the one they're going to call. So if I'm going to make sure they're all the same, I am doing that for me. It's not necessarily keeping the customer's price down for the initial purchase. It's keeping the price down for the support. This is flipped the other way for this client. We're giving them the best value today, but it does mean the support's a little more complicated. On the other hand, they're on a retainer and it's all prepaid and included. So it just means the more I have to work for them for repairs or issues that I have to resolve, that's less money I'm making. It doesn't cost them anything more than they're spending. So again, that's not all clients. There's a lot of things to keep in mind, a lot of variables to customize to a client. No different than if you go to a restaurant and you're ordering a meal. You may not want certain condiments. You may have an option of sides. Do you want a baked potato? Do you want a salad? Do you want peas? Do you want corn? Do you want broccoli? Do you want, and it's not like the chef is just back there making the same thing for everybody. They're making it for you the way you want it. Try going into an Italian restaurant and tell them you don't want olives. Get out. I mean, a real Italian restaurant. I've never been so insulted, but I don't like olives. Unacceptable. But I'm allergic to olives. Oh, I'm sorry. Here, I'll make that without olives. Some chefs, they have a lot of pride. All right. Let's see, where was I in the chat? Poorly Boy wants to know if I'm leaving the 32 gigs of RAM or am I going to put 64? Been on the fence on that. I think I'm going to leave it at 32. These are not going to the boss. These are going to the regular workers. So I don't know that there's really going to be any noticeable difference. It doesn't need to be RGB anyway. There's no case window, but it's already there. I'll look in my inventory, but I think I've pretty much run out of 64 gig DDR4, and it's kind of pricey. Let me see what's it going for on Amazon right now. If I had it, I'd use it. 64 gig DDR4. I mean, Crucial wants $253 for two 32 gig sticks. I guess you can buy a 64 gig DDR4 module all on its own for 160. You can buy 32 gigs for 120, two sticks of 16. So it looks like, 4 times 16 would get us to 64. That's $244.99 from G-Skill. Yeah, these prices have gone up. A discount manufacturer that got really good aggressive pricing is OLOY, and they're even showing $86 for 32 gigs. So if I got to buy 2 of those, what's 86 times 2? 172, something like that. That's a far cry from 250, but it's still quite a bit of money. Oh, here, let's put this in there. Let me share the screen with you. Here's NeMix RAM, 2 terabyte, 8 modules at 256 gig on each module, DDR4. It's only $11,600. How many would you like? One rating. Sold my car. Bought the RAM. Sometimes you'll find really funny reviews on things this expensive on Amazon, but no luck today. What's wrong with 11,600? That'll just put about $1,000 in sales tax on that. So the state of Arizona will collect nearly $1,000 or so, maybe more. That'll be $12,650 likely if I were to buy that, and you add sales tax onto it. So if you thought that was expensive, wait till you add sales tax. All right, let's go back over to camera 1. Are we ready to reboot over here? We are. Let's go ahead and reboot this bad boy. It's fast. It's running nice and quick. It's nice and quiet. And there was nothing wrong with it when I built it. I just changed my mind. I wanted the Johnsbow build to be something special. This is kind of boring. It's reliable. It's affordable. It's logical. But it's not thrilling and fun. And this customer isn't looking for thrilling and fun. In fact, most customers that pay me money, they're not paying to ride a roller coaster. They're paying for a reliable computer. They don't want to overpay, and they don't want to be stuck with something that needs constant maintenance or repairs. It's not fun for them. Might be fun for you, and they likely will never buy another computer from me if I did that to them. So boring and reliable and consistent is preferred in work. If you want to be successful, that's what it can be assumed that's what people that are serious with their computers absolutely demand. It's not negotiable and it's not funny. Home users that are playing and using this as a toy, different story, but then they're usually doing things themselves. They wouldn't hire you to begin with. So with that, just things to keep in mind from a business perspective versus a hobbyist perspective. A business is earning money and a hobbyist is spending money. All right, and have we rebooted? Let's see, go back over here. Almost there. I fully expect we're going to get Gen 3 speeds out of this NVMe drive. I'll throw the Samsung Magician software on it. I'll run Crystal Diskmark just to see. I'll also run Cinebench just to check our temps. With that cooler on this chip, it's way overkill. I know it's going to be fine. Then it'll go in the case. It's just a couple screws, a couple wires. I'll leave the power supply. I think I'm just going to leave it. Save the customer some money. And if anything, I'm still a little hesitant because power supplies are relatively inexpensive. And having to do a service call for a power supply is a pretty stupid service call because I was trying to save the client $40 or $50. On the other hand, there's no reason that power supply won't run another 25 years. It's impossible to know. And there's also no guarantee that a new power supply won't just die a week after I deliver it. Some things are they're just chaos. And you just say, well, I'll deal with it if I have to deal with it, but I'm not going to try to deal with problems I don't have because I got other things to do. I don't want to deal with how to live without electricity. So I'll just pay the electric bill, okay? That's just the way I see it. Then I don't have to worry about it. Let's right click over here for me and go full screen. Okay, now I see it the way you see it. And I'll go back to Windows Update, and we will repeat this until it says there are no more updates. I'll also need to put the Windows 11 fix on there. Barry's written a great, Dennis has written a great little utility for us to do that automatically if you want to check it out. It's available on our forums at kerryholzman.boards.net. He's got a Find Your Nano KVM utility that he wrote. He's got a Backup Your Drivers little application that he wrote. This is all stuff you can do by hand. He's just automating it. And he's made it and made it available for free. Over on our forums is where you can find it. But this is all just commands you can type in. And he's just given a pretty face to it, and it'll just do it on its own if you click the button to do it. And you might want to play with that, or you might want to prefer to do it by hand. But we certainly appreciate Dennis's efforts in creating that and offering it for free to the community. And if you have feedback for Dennis, you can talk to him through the forums as well. If we want to visit the forums, we just open up our browser. And we have a link in the video notes below today's video that you can click on. But if you're watching right now, you want to check out our free forums where you can continue to discuss whatever is on your mind with other members of the, not members, but viewers, just people in the community. Just go to kerryholzman.boards.net. That's it. Under general discussion, there you go. And you'll see the Nano KVM Finder created by Dennis Hill. And if you create an account, it's free. And you can't post unless you create an account. You can read, but you can't contribute because there's too many spammers and bad guys. This is a worldwide connection. So if somebody's a troll living in North Korea, or maybe your neighbor is just a 6-year-old kid who thinks he's being cool, they could just flood our chat room with nonsense. By having an account created, if somebody were to do that, we simply block that account. But we don't want your email address. We don't care. We just need to know that we can block you if we need to. So again, it's the bad guys that are making things that make locks required, right? You shouldn't have to lock your doors to your car or your house. But if you don't, someone will probably steal your stuff. Most people wouldn't, but enough people will that we all have put locks on our doors and we're expected to lock those doors because that's the world we live in. Now imagine that every country on the planet had access to those locks, not just your local community. You think it's bad in your local community? Multiply that to the community of the world, and that's connecting to the internet. All right, and so feel free to join in. It's completely free for everybody and always available. Just be respectful, be kind, be supportive. If you have questions, many people in the community will answer your questions. Mara and I will also put our 2 cents in from time to time. And quite often, the community gives better answers than we do. Or if you just want to hang out and chat about other hobbies like ham radio, there's a whole thread there dedicated to that as well, or whatever it is that they want to talk about. So we're all completed here. I continue to check for updates, and it looks like we're good to go. We can right-click on the Start menu and look at the system properties, and we can verify that we see an 11600K and 32 gigs of RAM. Oh, sorry, 13600K. I keep thinking it's 11th gen for some reason. There's our 32 gigs of RAM right there. The amount usable is because our onboard video needs some RAM. When you buy a video card, it always has RAM on it. The video card's built into the CPU, it has to borrow some of your RAM. We are Windows 11 Pro 25H2, current build. And once again, if we want to double check the device manager, right click, go to device manager, and we should see everything is happy, and it is. So again, after running a couple of benchmarks like Cinebench and Crystal Diskmark, everything assuming it's going to be fine. We're not going to overheat or have any issues with Cinebench. We're going to put it back in the 200R case, plug the original power supply back into it, plug the optical drive back into it, and then I will go to VIP-URCDKEYs and I will buy my Windows 10 Pro license. I will not buy a Windows 11 license because I'm not dumb. A Windows 10 license activates Windows 11 Pro. You don't need to have Windows 10, you just need the Windows 10 Pro license. Windows 11 can't tell the difference. On purpose, Microsoft can turn this off at any time. Because Windows 11 is a free upgrade to Windows 10, it doesn't need Windows 10, it needs a Windows 10 license. A Windows 10 Home license will not activate a Windows 11 Pro, but it will activate a Windows 11 Home. A Windows 10 Pro license won't activate a Windows 11 Home, but it will activate a Windows 11 Pro. So if I'm typing in a Windows 11 Pro license that costs $3 more to activate this computer, or I type in a Windows 10 Pro license to activate this computer for $3 less, and I'm building 10 computers, that's $30. That's like getting several licenses for free. Why would I spend more? Why would you? But if you want to, they'll happily sell you one at VIP CDK deals, and the 25% discount applies regardless. So just so you know, again, I don't make commission on it, so I try to save you some money, and also making sure you're not going to get scammed. You're buying from a legit licensed key seller, and they will support the product for 6 months. David Graham says, why aren't you using the RAM from the other board? That's a fair question, David. The other board, how much RAM did it have? Where did I put the board? I set it down somewhere, didn't I? I can't believe I can't. I took it out and I moved it somewhere. Hold on, let me find it. It might have only had 16 gigs. Maybe it had 32. I don't know. Let me check. I would rather have the RGB RAM removed. And I'd rather have 2 sticks totaling 32, because then I'm having if I have 4 sticks of RAM, I have 4 sticks of RAM that can go bad. If I have 2 sticks of RAM, I've cut my chances in half of having a problem with one in the future. Okay, so the board here, it was 32, wasn't it, when we looked in the BIOS? Good looking out, David. I think you're right. I think these are 216s, and they're not RGB. Yeah. You're absolutely right. This is far more professional, and it's a cleaner install, and I will exactly do that. Thank you for the reminder, because when I was planning this video, I thought if I didn't have the RAM I needed, I could use this RAM, and then I completely forgot until you just said something. So I'm glad one of us is paying attention. Now let me go put this back where I'm going to forget. Very good. Good idea. Okay, other questions, other comments? Yeah, Thomas MacT said it was 32. There it was. Midnight Club said Windows 10 is better anyway. Sure, why not? And a Kit Kat bar is better than what else? What other kind of it's better than M&Ms. Sure. Okay. Whatever you say. I'll just nod my head and smile. Let's see. John Williams always telling Scott to get a new power supply. Sorry, I missed that whole conversation. I thought you were talking to me for a minute. David Herzog said, I just remembered to update my Windows install media to 25H2. I'm doing that now. Yeah, I strongly recommend you use Rufus to do that if you're not. It's strongly recommended. I think David Graham tried to get my attention several times. Thank you, David, for sticking to that until I saw it. I get involved in this and then I'm not over here. And then if I'm over here, then this just sits. So something's getting ignored. I need to be able to have one eye on each side of my head, like my mother did. Actually, I think they were in the back of her head. A shout out and a thank you, of course, to Marlena for all the work she does in the background. She made today's thumbnail, as always, by hand. Well, I think she had a little help from AI, but she has a vision and she tries to be creative in a way that she hasn't been before. So I think you'll notice the thumbnails. It's not like she's just taking the easy way out and just reusing the same thumbnail with a different type of font or a little change. It's all completely fresh. It takes time and she really enjoys doing it. I hope you guys enjoy her efforts. And of course, she does all the administrative tasks from the video notes to resolving and answering a lot of your emails that come in. If you have any questions for us, you want to reach out for any reason, we love hearing from you. That's our email address right there on the screen. If you want to share pictures of your build or tell a little story of a problem you had, a lesson that you learned, there's no humiliation or embarrassment in that. If anything, it's helping all of us. Because if you don't make the same mistakes I make, because I'm showing you my mistakes, you're going to make mistakes differently than you're going to make mistakes I never made. And a lot of people in society, they get really offended. Don't tell people I made mistakes. You're humiliating me. Why would you keep that to yourself? Why wouldn't you help the community and say, let me tell you what happened to me so that it doesn't happen to you? Why would you just hide that away in shame? That's a real problem in society. If you learn something from it, wouldn't it have been great if somebody would have told you beforehand so you would have avoided that mistake? And so now you've made the mistake and you're upset if I want to tell people about your mistake and you think that I am belittling you? No. It's not about you. It's that you're like everyone else. None of us were born with the knowledge. And if you keep those learning experiences to yourself because you think it's embarrassing, then I don't think you know what it is to be human. You think you're a robot? We all make mistakes. And if we can help each other out through our experiences, not through things we read online, but from real experiences, and you say, well, you know, I thought this went in this way, and it turns out it goes in differently. I didn't know that. There's no humiliation. I have a lot more respect for people that own up to their misunderstandings and mistakes and further want to pay it forward so other people that are similarly minded can avoid making that failure to understand that you had, and now they can fail to understand something else that you completely were fine with. That's the process. But not everybody likes it, especially if they're the ones who learned. And we say, well, look, we had a person that learned. We don't give their names, but they know who they are. And I'll tell you, I've got some nasty emails from people. I'm like, you don't want to help your community? You just want to You know, never admit you ever learned anything. What's wrong with you? So sometimes in the attempt to do the right thing, it really upsets some people. That's how bizarre society is. And I hope none of you are like that. I hope you understand that I'm willing to make mistakes on live camera. You know why? Because I'm human and I'm not pretending to be better than that. I would hope that you would also be proud of learning and you'd want to explain to people proudly what you've learned. But if you're not learning anything, you should keep that to yourself. All right, am I clear on that? Let's get rid of that email address. I hope that you guys take advantage of that anytime. We'd love to hear from you. I see Amara.
Thank you, everybody. I just finished the
You're just working on cookbook number 2, and it's all done?
Number 2. I just finished.
She's been working
like within seconds ago.
Tirelessly on this.
Oh, my Lord.
Is that going to be on Amazon, or what are you doing with it?
Yeah, I'm just going to self-publish, but we'll be in collaboration with the company.
Yeah, she's found this flour replacement called Unbeliever Flour, right? And they also make breads, Unbeliever buns and things like that, out of North or South Carolina, I think.
They're South Carolina, and they make breads, they make bagels, they make hot dog rolls, hoagie buns, New York style bagels. They make all kinds of things. They're delicious. They're fantastic. There's no dietary impact.
Yeah, no blood sugar issues, no carbs. It's all low carb.
Very, very low carb.
And
1 net carb per bagel or
it's the best flour replacement you've ever seen, right?
I've ever used.
Yeah, she's a big believer in that.
Yeah.
So ideally, if she's making recipes showcasing this Unbeliever flour.
And I'm the only person that's ever used this flour in this.
Yeah, hopefully the Unbeliever flour gets more popular and becomes more common.
I really want to see it.
It's all keto.
It's revolutionary.
And people don't know about it.
Right.
And so it makes sense for Unbeliever flour and Mara to work together because she benefits dietarily, creates recipes using their product, which they can then use to sell their product and say, here's some recipes you can try. It's a match made in heaven. Let's hope it goes somewhere. And in the meantime, she'll publish it on Amazon as well.
Oh.
Right on. You still got some work to do to figure out the formatting for Kindle.
Yeah, I just fixed most of the formatting. I still have to.
That's a pain in the butt.
It is a pain in the butt, but I also just got it successfully. So I'm pretty happy about that.
And there's no duplicate recipes from the other cookbook, right? These are all new.
They're all brand new.
Yeah, she's got thousands of recipes in her head.
Yeah.
I have like 3: Doritos, Cheetos,
pizza,
taquitos, pizza, chicken, steak, pasta.
Right.
That's it. Maybe some Fritos.
Yeah, boil some water and throw some pasta in. There's your recipe.
I don't use a microwave. So there's that.
I guess that's true.
All right.
All right.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for all of your support of all our members. We'll be back Sunday probably to work on number 2. Should be more of the same. I don't have the same board or CPU that's going to go in it, so there'll be a little variance. But I expect this one will be all buttoned up and ready to go maybe later tonight. I guess I could put it off till tomorrow. Sunday, we'll come back and do the second one, which is actually the 3rd one. And then those are ready to go back to the client, assuming no surprises or unexpected events. I expect it to go like butter. I will switch this RAM out. It's a great idea. So I'll do that tonight. And I don't know what we're going to do with the old boards. Not sure yet. Fact of the matter is the cases and power supplies are worth more than the motherboards and chips. But they're fine. They work great. They're just not Windows 11 compatible. So they won't go to a recycler. We'll find a use for them somewhere, somehow, for another day. Give me something to work on. We have a couple of computers coming in, a couple of minis. Minis Forum has their Halloween sale going on right now. If you're interested in looking for some bargains before the big Black Friday specials that everybody's going to swarm to, and it's, you know, whoever gets there first gets the deals. If you buy a little earlier, like now, before the masses all do it, you might find some deals that may be in limited supply. It's a gamble, I suppose. You know, you don't know what the sales are going to be Black Friday or what the inventories or buying is going to be like. So right now, there are Halloween sales going on over at the Minis Forum website. I only mention it not because they pay me, because they don't. I mention it because I'm looking out for you guys. There may be some really good deals to be had right now before, you know, the culture all starts buying all at the same time. And check them out and see if there's anything good there.
What a nightmare over here.
What'd you call me?
Hi. Nightmare. Yeah. Only they knew the truth.
Is that some kind of a horse at nighttime? A horse that likes evenings?
You have email. You have email. I just wanted to say hi, everybody.
Oh, I suppose I better check that before I say goodbye. Thank you.
You're welcome. If I can get out of here.
Don't be, well, you're getting all caught up on my cables.
I know. I'm working on it.
You must be at least this tall to enter.
Right.
Emails. Oh, Barry Klein sent an Amazon gift card. Right on. Thank you, Barry. We'll do the gift card in lieu of gifting memberships this time. It's the old-fashioned way of supporting the channel. Well, we appreciate any kind of support any way we can get it. Thank you so much. Okay. I think that catches us up. Thank you again to our friend Buster out there in Scotland, as always. The amazing and consistent loyal support. Paul Vercher, thank you as well. And again, another shout out to Charlie Purdy. Whenever I have a guest on, like yesterday we had Doug Betts, I often don't get to give the shout outs as much because I feel it's a little rude to the guest. But I do appreciate it. And again, a shout out to Charlie for yesterday's contribution. And yeah, I really enjoyed the show yesterday with Doug Betts. If you haven't watched it, watch yesterday's show. I think, well, at least from my perspective, I thought it was great. So Sunday, we'll do the other machine. Monday is members only. So if you're a new member here, be sure and join us on Mondays at 1 o'clock Phoenix time. The time will be changing for all of you when daylight saving comes around. I think it's November 2nd. We're about a week away. Phoenix does not observe it. So when you're moving your clocks, we're not moving ours. So our start time is still 1 o'clock for us, but it may change for you, depending on if you're on the East Coast or the West Coast. I don't know if that's East. I'm just randomly pointing my hands in opposite directions. But needless to say, we always start at 1 o'clock Phoenix time. And we'll remind you of that when I'm sure you're going to get plenty of reminders when you have to fall back an hour. And when you do, we'll be an hour earlier for you guys. But here in Phoenix, we're still at 1 o'clock. And so the rest of that next week, I don't know yet. We are expecting some items to come in. So that's where we're at. Thank you so much again for hanging out. I hope you enjoyed the content. We certainly enjoyed having you here. And we'll look forward to seeing you again Sunday, 1 o'clock. Until then, bye for now.